Jupiter square Saturn is aligning in the cosmos, and when these two planets aren't getting along, this is a squabble that we are going to feel ricochet intensely into the collective and into your universe. Hi, my name is Haley Comet, and welcome to my Cosmic Corner of the Internet, where we discuss all things astrology, and today, all things Jupiter square Saturn 2024 and you. What it means that Jupiter, the planet of abundance, expansion, faith, makes a harsh aspect to Saturn, the planet of restriction, the planet of limitation, the planet of reality. What does this mean for all of us, and what does this mean for your life in your chart? That is exactly what we are covering today. Within the months August 2024 and December 2024, Jupiter in Gemini will square off with Saturn in Pisces, giving the energy of growing pains, the energy of reality check, the energy of having to slow our process to ensure that it is in alignment with our long-term goals. It's not always the most fun alignment of energy, but it can be a necessary cosmic check-in. And within this video, we will break down exactly how you can work with this energy, what may come up, and what within your chart is being activated for you to look at. Now, this does happen 3 times, but within this video, we will only cover the Jupiter square Saturn aspect that lands in August 2024 and December 2024. The reason for this is that in the year 2024, this aspect meets up when Jupiter is in Gemini and Saturn's in Pisces. The final closing square of this aspect occurs in 2025, and by that point, Jupiter will have entered Cancer and Saturn will have entered Aries, and that is quite a different story. So that will likely be a different video. Right now, we're looking at this mutable showdown and the showdown that it is creating within our charts and within our life. That ultimately is this conflict around where it is that we are growing and where it is that we are rooted in the way that things are, and where it is that we want to expand within our world and what within our life feels like it's just holding us back, around where it is that we want to physically, emotionally, spiritually move forward, but where it is that we feel like that process is being stagnated, moving at such a slow pace that we feel like we're not moving forward at all. And I'm so grateful that you are here watching this video, because this can be an energy where you feel like you want to give up. You may feel like you've been working towards something or wanting to grow something within your world, and you're just hitting a wall. You could feel like the progress that you're making is slow and steady. Some of us could even feel this block as it relates to our own sense of faith, not being optimistic about what's ahead, not even feeling connected to our own intuition, looking for answers and just finding more questions. And it's important to be dialed in with this energy, just so if you feel these Saturnian blues, this pessimism, this doubting of yourself in your own chapter, you can know it's simply this Jupiter square Saturn energy. Work with it and continue progressing forward. Because when it comes to Saturn energy, yes, that growth that we are seeking, these new experiences, these new learnings that Jupiter and Gemini is calling in, they may be unfolding at a very slow and steady pace. But one thing to know about Saturn energy and this Saturnian reality check that we are getting within the year 2024 is that Saturn may delay, but it does not deny. In that, yes, you may need to look at what it is that you want to grow within your life, if it's feasible, if you have the time, if you have the resources to make it happen. You may need to really look at your habits. You may need to really look at your discipline. You may need to look at if you value these visions enough in order to bring them into fruition. You may need to work that muscle of having faith in yourself in those moments that you start to question if you have the capacity to accomplish this. That can absolutely come up. But with the energy of Saturn, so long as you're open to the wisdom, even if it comes through in a little bit of bleak, a little bit of harsh ways, if you are open in the wisdom in August and December 2024, you can find that you are able to genuinely move forward, that you are genuinely able to cut through the clutter of where it is that you're feeling scattered, trying to do too many things at once, trying to be too many people at once, and really being able to hone your focus on where it is that you really want to grow, where it is that you want to move forward, where it is that you want to expand into, while playing by Saturn's rules, ensuring that you have the resources, the time, the discipline in order to make that happen and to support that growth. So within this video, we will break down what this indicates within the collective, and then we will break down how you can find where this lands within your birth chart and what this tension is bringing up within your chart and thus your life. But before before we do, something that is so important to keep in mind with the Jupiter square Saturns playing out at the end of 2024 is that this alignment happens in mutable signs, Gemini and Pisces. And both of these squares actually pull in some other players into this mutable showdown. And what you need to know about the modality of mutable within astrology is that this is the modality that governs being adaptable. It's around being shape-shifting. And it could be a little chaotic. It could be a little scattered. It could be a little all over the place. And especially when we consider the aspect that we're talking about is around where it is that we are growing versus where it is that we are restricted. You could be feeling this push-pull energy. You could be feeling a little scattered, wanting to step into your new life, feeling held back by your old life, having new ideas that you want to embody, but feeling stuck by maintaining the responsibilities of your current workload. Like you can just feel this push-pull and feel very frantic, very scattered, very all over the place. So I do want to say, if you notice that that comes up during this Jupiter square Saturn aspect, I deeply recommend my favorite productivity shot that I take every single morning, which is Magic Mind. Magic Mind is a productivity shot that has matcha in it, so it gives you that energetic boost for you to handle the tasks. Like I said, Saturn rewards discipline and consistency, but it doesn't show up in that frantic, jittery sort of way. Trust me, with these mutable energies, we do not need to be any more scattered than we will be feeling during these planetary alignments. And why I love Magic Mind so much is that beyond just giving you energy so that you can take on your to-do list, it also supports your brain in getting you into flow state. And it does this via the nootropics that are within that allow you to focus on the task at hand without feeling scattered in a million different directions. And even the lion's mane within helps improve memory, which is going to be very important, especially with Jupiter in Gemini, which can be a little bit of a squirrel type energy, a little distracted. Magic Mind perfectly combats that tendency. It also has adaptogens, which help your body relax, help you regulate stress. Again, this configuration is a little stressful. We could feel pulled in different directions, whether it's from different people, whether it's from different priorities, whether it's from what we're wanting to step into versus what it is that we're wanting to leave behind. We could just feel pulled all over the place. And what I love about Magic Mind is the adaptogens within help you in managing stress so that you're able to be more productive and less frazzled. I typically take my shot of Magic Mind along with my morning cup of coffee every single morning, and it's actually allowed me to cut down the amount of coffee that I reach for and allowed me to be more productive, whether we're having some crazy astrology or some more calm astrology. And as you're finding out within this video, we have some interesting astrology baking above us when it comes to later on this year. That's why my subscription to Magic Mind has been coming in handy. So if you want to give Magic Mind a try, if you want to order it, if you want to get on a subscription, make sure to check out the link below. I'll have it within the drop down as well as within the pinned comment. Utilize my code COMET to save 20% off your order of Magic Mind. Thank you so much, Magic Mind, for sponsoring our Jupiter square Saturn All Signs Forecast. And without further ado, let's go ahead and take it into Jupiter square Saturn growing pains. So Jupiter in Gemini will square Saturn in Pisces 2 times at the end of 2024. And there are unique differences, unique facets into the stories that they tell when the two meet up for a squabble and a tussle in August, and when the two meet up to fight again in December. There are nuances to it, both within the collective as well as within your universe. But firstly, I want to get us familiar with what it indicates that Jupiter is squaring off with Saturn. What could be expected? And this story begins in December 2020. And I want you to go back to that time of your life. What was alive? What was birthing? What was being created around that time? And the reason I highlight that specific moment is because that is the time that Jupiter in Aquarius aligned with Saturn in Aquarius, kicking off a new Jupiter-Saturn cycle. This is the first square that we are experiencing since that cycle began come December 2020. So really contemplating what was alive within your universe. What were you creating? What boundaries were you setting? What visions were you crystallizing? Contemplating that may bring into focus how that story is continuing when we talk about these two now in a square aspect within the year 2024. There may be themes from around that time that may be echoed in an interesting way, or at least a continuation of that story. And when we talk about Jupiter, Jupiter is the planet of expansion. It's the planet of faith. It's the planet of growth. But the thing about growth is that growth must have limits. And Jupiter is not always a planet that plays by the rules when it comes to limits. It is the very planet of what is excess. It's the biggest planet in our solar system after all. So with these two getting together, Saturn is kind of checking that unchecked growth that Jupiter has been up to, both within the collective as well as within your universe. Really drawing into focus, do we have the bandwidth for all of these new ideas or these visions that you have? Can our economy sustain year after year profits for shareholders? Can we realistically continue to expand prices to this level? Like, the energy of Saturn is like, hold on. There needs to be some sort of balancing here, at least some sort of like regulation to any sort of unchecked growth or things that have just snowballed or swelled out of control. And while that in some ways could be a positive thing, there will be themes within August 2024 and December 2024 of experiencing a crash, a slowdown, hitting a wall of sorts. We can witness this within the economy. We can witness this even as it relates to certain communication, certain news that is out there. The energy of Saturn is kind of like a hold your horses type energy. And sometimes hitting that wall or having to deal with limits after just this boundless growth can be disheartening. And that is something that I want you to be very mindful in August and in December, is that you could be feeling very down. You can be experiencing a lack of faith at this moment. You could be experiencing a feeling of stagnancy, of being stuck, wanting to expand in these new ways, but just feeling boxed into our current environment. Whether that's showing up in terms of the responsibilities that are on your plate, whether that's showing up in terms of finite limitations of resources that are available to you. There could just be this energy around, dang. Because Jupiter is our energy around having faith and feeling optimistic about a new day. And with the energy of Saturn, that could be more challenging to tap into naturally. Now, it's not to say that we need to give up on life, like Saturn energy is around where it is that we can work that muscle around continuing to have faith in our growth, even if it's showing up in a very slow and steady way. Continuing to have faith within the universe, even though you can feel like it's just been obstacle after obstacle. You might be like, universe, please. You can work that muscle around having faith that it will not always feel like it does right now. That's so important to bear in mind, because the collective vibe could be feeling a little down. People could be really feeling disheartened and disillusioned by the way that things are. There could be a profound lack of hope that is alive within the collective currently, which is why it's important for you as the viewer of this video, and hopefully tapping into these collective energies, to continue to work the muscle around what helps you be that light source, or what helps you to be that source of hope within others, to be altruistic and giving and generous towards others, or to do whatever necessary in order to keep that hope alive within yourself. If you're in a protective mode and you're like, listen, I just need to be able to take care of myself, it's important with Jupiter square Saturn that you do the actions necessary to keep that sensation of hope and faith and optimism alive within yourself. Because to be completely forthright, you may be feeling a little defeated around this aspect. But this is why I find that astrology has so much healing potential, because when we can honor what we're feeling is reflected by the current cosmos, we also honor the cosmos is constantly shifting. It will not always feel as it does right now. So it's important during this energy not to give up, to rest and not give up, because for some of us, this energy could absolutely be around burnout or something of that nature. I'm not saying you have to hustle and try to beat Saturn. Typically, Saturn will win, but it is around working the muscle around remaining consistent of what it is that you do want to grow, being open to the universe's wisdom, even if it comes through in a bit of a stark, more harsh way, courtesy of Saturn, and to do whatever necessary to keep that spirit of hope and optimism alive within your world. Even if that's just giggling with Jupiter and Gemini, right? This is a Mercury ruled Jupiter, and Mercury is the trickster. It's a light energy, and I do feel that sometimes laughter can be healing, or being able to crack a joke at the current situation, or even just being able to band together with others in order to vent and discuss. Like, that can be helpful in just navigating this brick wall of an energy. It just feels like Jupiter in Gemini was going in 2024, and now it's hitting a wall. And so you could feel like your hope, your optimism, what it is that you want to grow, or even just your overall faith in life, your faith in the universe hits a wall. And it might be important with Jupiter in Gemini to laugh if you can, to have discussions, to vent, to communicate about it, to find the lesson in it. That's the thing. Sometimes the universe gives us lessons that are not so palatable to swallow, but nevertheless, it is a lesson. And sometimes those challenging lessons, those are the biggest lessons of all. And with Jupiter in Gemini, it's really taking the data around what is coming up for you. And I do want to apologize if you can hear the lawnmower outside. I do apologize for that. It's so funny. If you watch my weekly horoscope series, Magic Monday, here on the channel, you know that a lot of times when I discuss the astrology, the circumstances by which I'm filming, discussing the astrology, sometimes do mirror the dynamics of what I am referring to. And when I say this video has been such a disaster, to film, there have been many issues that have gone wrong. I'm feeling very over capacity, which I know many of us are, right? And there's just been many trials and tribulations. So unfortunately, normally I would just wait for them to be done, but this is quite literally the only time that I would have to film this video. And I do feel like this information is important to get out there. So I do apologize. I'm just gonna giggle. But of course, there's a lawnmower during my last possible opportunity to film. But nevertheless, so firstly, to get into the nuances of this aspect itself. Firstly, we need to understand the nature of where Jupiter is sitting, the nature of where Saturn is sitting, and the nature of the aspect, the conversation that the two are having. And if you're familiar with astrology, you know square is not the most pleasant conversation to have. Square is a little bit like two planets beefing above us. And so these two planets are not getting along. When this cycle began in December 2020, they were fused together, right? There was a fusion around what it is that we were wanting to build and expand. And there was a working together around the vision that it takes, the faith, the optimism it takes to be able to move forward with a certain vision, and playing by the rules of the structures, the resources necessary in order to support it, to really hold it. Now, the nature of how these two planets are conversing now is that they're not getting along. Where it is that we want to expand, the vision that we have, the hope that we have, is in many ways in conflict with the reality of the situation as represented by Saturn. So let's get familiar with these two players. So Jupiter, the planet of faith, optimism, abundance, is sitting in the sign Gemini. Jupiter does not like being in Gemini. Jupiter much prefers being in Gemini's opposite sign, Sagittarius. That's where it's comfy and cozy. So Jupiter is already at a disadvantage when it comes to this beef. And the reason why Jupiter in Gemini is not so pleased here is because the very nature of Jupiter is around big picture meaning. It's around faith. It's around religion. And with the energy of Gemini, it's very much around considering other viewpoints. The energy of Gemini is all around words and communication and being able to hold two visions at once. And with Jupiter, it's our beliefs, it's our morals, things that should be grounded in a central truth. But with the energy of Jupiter and Gemini, we're contemplating, well, I could also feel this way, or it could also be this. And also with Jupiter and Gemini, we can find just within our personal lives that we have all of these ideas, we have all of these visions, we have all of these interests that we're wanting to explore. But we might find that we are scattered. Like it's like, I want to do this, but I'm also interested in this. And we're feeling like we're not making progress in any which way because we do not have the focus in order to build towards a particular vision. And with Jupiter and Gemini, there just could be more questions than answers at this point. Because Gemini is a very curious energy. And so you might be in a situation where it's like, God, universe, source energy, why is this happening? Give me a sign. And you might feel like you're not getting that answer around what is deeply and truly meant for you. Like with Jupiter and Gemini, it's like, well, I could do this, or I could do this, or I could do this. And you're looking for answers and just simply finding more questions. It's kind of the energy of Jupiter and Gemini. And I want you to know, just in case you've been within that energy and you're like, universe, God, are you there? Like some of us, I'm just feeling, are feeling legitimately abandoned by God or like legitimately abandoned by spirit source energy. Like you're looking for an answer, you're looking for a sign, and it's quiet. It feels like it's crickets. And I want to let you know, to those that I'm talking to who feel that way, spirit is here. I know in August and December, it may feel blocked. You may be feeling confused. You may be feeling all over the place, but it's really important to know that spirit is with you on your path. And those answers to your questions are coming. but they might come in a different way than you would necessarily want them. And we get more information about that when we look at Saturn in Pisces. So Saturn is peregrine, which means that Saturn does not particularly like being in Pisces. Saturn does not particularly dislike being in Pisces. It is utterly neutral. However, Saturn is sitting in Jupiter's domain. I'm a traditional astrologer, so I consider the ruler of Pisces Jupiter. So with Saturn in Pisces, the faith that we are looking for, the hope, the optimism, it may come through in more Saturnian ways. Doesn't mean it's not available to you. It's just important to honor the wisdom of Saturn. The energy between these two planets meeting up in the cosmos sort of feels like a fresh student at university. That's Jupiter and Gemini, right? When you're green, you're excited to learn all of the things, you have all of the ideas. You stay after class to ask the professor, what about this and what about this? Because there's just that excited energy, right? Which is important not to lose that. It's important to feel curious and optimistic around where life can go and where you can go. Like, again, we might need to work that muscle of continuing to have that optimism, and that's a beautiful thing. But when that student comes up to the professor, we'll say that the professor is, older, wiser. Jupiter and Gemini might be asking, what about this? What about this? Saturn Pisces, the professor, might be a little bit more intentional with one's verbiage. Like Jupiter and Gemini might have been looking for certain sort of answers, but with Saturn and Pisces, those answers could be coming through in very somber or simple ways around the answer is within you. Jupiter and Gemini is like, what? The answer is within me? No, the answer is within you. Like, I need answers to all of these questions. But with Saturn and Pisces, it's sort of like turning the mirror back around what do you feel the answer is? And with Jupiter and Gemini, and Jupiter being our sense of faith, we could be overthinking, like contemplating, well, I could think of this, or I could think of this, or maybe it's this, or maybe this, and looking for answers outside of ourselves. But Saturn and Pisces is really wanting us to find those answers from within, which a lot of times can be incredibly frustrating. I don't know if you guys have ever gotten like a psychic reading where the reader tells you, what does your intuition say? Or listen to your intuition, and you get like frustrated because you're like, no, like I wanted this reading from you. I want you to tell me what to do. I want you to tell me what it is that I should do. But ultimately, that's the best advice that we have, is really sit in, trust your own intuition. And with Jupiter and Gemini, we could be questioning ourselves. Other people's words can be feeling more real than what is existent within ourselves. And we could be feeling frustrated, like with Jupiter and Gemini saying to the professor, like, no, like tell me the answers. You're so wise, you have the answers. But with Saturn and Pisces, it's saying it doesn't matter what the answer is. It matters how it is that you seek and arrive to the answer. I don't know if you've ever had a professor or psychic who would like speak to you in those philosophical sentences. That's the vibe of Saturn and Pisces. And we could feel like, universe, God, you're abandoning me. Like, I don't know what to do. I need a sign. I need answers. But ultimately, we are being asked to find that within ourselves. And we could be feeling blocked if we're looking for an easy fix-it-all. If we're looking for someone to come in and tell us what is best for us. Only you know, only your internal GPS. And again, some of us might feel blocked from our intuition this month. That is okay. Know that that will pass. But there's not one person out here who is more qualified to run your life than you are. Regardless of whatever obstacles, whatever challenges and tribulations that have come into your sphere, nobody is more equipped to run your life than you are. And so there's just an energy around being intentional around where you are placing your authority, especially if it's outside of yourself, around what direction you want to move your life in. Like, I just feel like with Jupiter and Gemini, we're just taking in all of this information, looking for all of these different perspectives. And with Saturn, it's only leading us with more confusion. Like, there kind of is an energy around getting quiet, which is not always where Jupiter and Gemini thrives. If you know any Gemini placements, listen, love them, but a lot of words, right? With this energy, when we consider the wise professor, right, Saturn in Pisces, oftentimes there is an energy around having seen some stuff, right? And having that wisdom to say, what is the answer for you? Or to have philosophical statements that kind of lead you with more questions. Because again, they've seen many excitable students come into the university and then just get worn down by life. There is a certain wisdom that, having been on this plane, having had certain experiences, having seen the passage of time, having seen the nature of all things, those experiences do wisen in you. And you realize when you've seen, as an older professor, you've seen all the excitable students, you've seen their path, you've seen the ups and downs. It doesn't necessarily make you jaded, but there is an energy around honoring the wisdom of what is. And the thing about wisdom is that it doesn't always come through in what is the simplest for us to swallow or the easiest for us to swallow. Saturn in Pisces, the professor knows that if the professor spoon feeds the student every answer to the question as soon as it arrives, that is negatively impacting the student from going out and finding their own answers or doing the research or working that muscle to accumulate this information themselves. Oftentimes what it is that we pray for, that we want so badly from the universe, like, please, this is what I want, please give me this. Like, the universe knows that that is either not in alignment with your true life's path, that if you were to have it free and easy, you would not appreciate it, that the experience of you getting that thing, even if it does take time, is going to build the character necessary within your particular step of the journey. Answers to your prayers don't always arrive immediately. The answers to your questions don't always arrive immediately, because it is up to us as the seekers of our own journey to happen upon them. And with Jupiter and Gemini, there could be a little bit of impatience. There could be a little bit of distraction, right? Around, well, you didn't give me the answer, so I want to drop this class or take a different class. But there's a certain respect that we are being asked to honor within August 2024 and December 2024 around the spiritual wisdom that our current experiences could be giving us, even if it's not ideal. Because for a lot of us, I'm going to be straight up, it will not be ideal. It will not be ideal. And that doesn't mean that God, universe, has given up on you. There could just be a longer story that's playing out. We have to keep in mind Saturn is about time. So everything is unfolding in accordance to divine timing and in accordance to divine order, which is not always an easy pill to swallow. There's an energy when it comes to these squares to honor the wisdom of it is not meant to be. And I don't want that to make you feel disheartened or dejected, but there is an energy when it comes to the astrology that we're navigating around honoring that truly, and feel this in your bones, honor that what is truly for you will not pass you. Honor that truly what is meant to be will be, and what is not meant to be will not be. And to really feel within your bones that some things are not meant to be. Sometimes when you are asking for something, the universe is protecting you. Like, truly, you could be asking, please, I just want to be with this person. And the universe sees the timeline that could unfold between you and this person. And it's like, nope. But we don't see that perspective. Again, Saturn Pisces kind of represents the wisdom of the universe, right? Who sees the bigger picture that you're not seeing. With Jupiter and Gemini, you're excited, right? You're curious about, I want this person, let me be with this person. But with Saturn and Pisces, it's like, I'm going to actually block that, because for your highest and best good, that person is not truly what you want. You might think you want, your ego might have attached to this person, your eyes might have attached to this person, but to your soul level, to what is for your highest and best good, that is not what you want. And again, we could feel that blocked or that resistance energy and be like, well, the universe hates me. I'm not getting what it is that I want. But again, we don't see the bigger story. Saturn is about time. So we don't see truly how that connection or whatever it is that you desire, whatever it is that you want to grow, how that would play out with time. And just to know that some things are not meant to be. And that can be so upsetting when we take that in. I know for me personally, there was like a connection within my world that I knew was not meant to be. Like I knew, and I had all the signs. I had all the signs, I had all the signals that it was not meant to be. And there was part of me that wanted to go against the universe and just like fight and fight for this particular connection around no. Like, I am an empowered individual within my own environment. I could yank this person into my timeline. I want them. I don't care. I don't care. Because sometimes our ego or even our desire nature, the first of the T-squares involves Mars. So our desire nature can sometimes get in the way around, listen, I don't care if it's for my highest and best good. I don't care if it's universe ordained. This is what I want, or this is who I want, or whatever it is. And sometimes there is just this bitter pill to swallow around, it is not meant to be. And I'm not saying to give up. That's not what I'm saying, but you will know if that message is for you. If you feel like you have been fighting and efforting and just experienced every obstacle in the world and it's no longer fun, you're no longer learning lessons, but you're still holding on, there could just be an energy around just honoring, hey, must be telling me something. Let me refocus. Let me reprioritize my energy stores, because a lot of us are having to deal with where our focus has been scattered and kind of streamlining a little bit. And let me trust that what is meant to be will be, because Saturn's at play here, right? So maybe it's just not meant to be right now. Maybe it's delaying your growth right now. Saturn is the planet of time. When this opportunity is meant to come into alignment, when this person is meant to come into alignment, it will, if it's meant to. That's the thing, we're playing by Saturn's rules, and Saturn is about time, it's about limitations, and when we go against Saturn, we could just feel like we are swimming upstream. We could feel like we are fighting against the universe. And again, there might be wisdom or bigger pieces that we don't understand right now. Like, I want you to think of that person that you thought you were gonna marry in high school. I want you to think of the first job that you thought that you were going to want to do. Like, I want you to think of being at the very start of something and being like, yes, it's got to be this. It's got to be this, right? Because Gemini is that kind of green, excitable energy, right? It's the eternal student. It's being at the start of the journey and being excited about where it could go. But really think about what your life would be like if you were still with that person you thought you were going to marry from high school, or if you were still working at that job, or whatever it is within your world that with time, with age, with maturity, you're like, I would not want to be with that person. That job would be an absolute nightmare. But at the time you wanted it so bad, so bad. And sometimes it helps to view from a bigger picture, especially with the Saturn energy, around the bigger cycles that are playing out and honoring the past things that you wanted so bad that you tried to force into alignment that weren't meant to be, that now you're grateful were not meant to be. And knowing that you may look at this time of your life as the same. It is not meant to be. That is not a personal attack towards you. That is not the universe hating you. There's just other things that might be in more alignment. Now, I'm not saying we need to surrender or give up, because like I said, Saturn does reward consistency. I'm just saying there's a difference between being challenged and being activated around, okay, this particular goal, it's making me have more boundaries. It's making me have the discipline to continue to show up for it. It should not be a battle where you feel like your efforts are being thwarted at every turn. Like, Saturn energy may challenge us around, how bad do you want this, right? The Jupiter and Gemini, like growth or what you want to expand within your world, how bad do you want it? Because Jupiter and Gemini is like a yes, and Saturn and Pisces is a no. And sometimes we have to say some no's in order to carve the space for our yes. So for some of you, you might find that when it comes to your Jupiter and Gemini energy, it's like, okay, to grow this aspect of my life, I need more boundaries here. Or to grow this arena of my life, I need to start saving more here. Or there just could be an energy around, when it comes to any side of growth, there will be sacrifices around it in order to support it. And you could also be wrestling with that. Like, do I want this bad enough in order to sacrifice my time to practice this particular skill? Do I want this bad enough that I'm willing to reallocate my energy here? Like, do I want it bad enough? And if the answer is yes for you, like with the energy of Saturn, you can find that you are able to, within August and December, enforce those boundaries, say those no's, make those redistributions of your time and energy in order to accommodate that growth. Because with these two meeting up in mutable signs, mutable is kind of the shape-shifting energy. It's very open, it's very adaptable. And we can think that, oh yeah, I have the space and time for this and this and this, but like Saturn is saying, like something somewhere will pay the price. And that's why a lot of us are going to feel burnt out during this time. Because if you've been running your business and you have a side hustle and you're raising your kids, like you might be doing it all, but there are elements that you are sacrificing, which could be your own wellness, your own peace of mind, your own sanity. And there might be a need around needing to see where adjustments are necessary in order to support this growth. Because for some of us, with Jupiter and Gemini, our energy is just too scattered. It's just too all over the place. And if you don't listen to the Saturn wisdom around, hey, adjustments are necessary, you're going to start to feel the consequences of that around dropping the ball in certain arenas, missing a kid pickup, whoops, missing some orders at your business, whoops. Like, your mind is powerful and amazing and all of the things, but as humans, we have to play by the rules of Saturn, which is our physical time, like our physical bandwidth, right? Our resources. And for some of us, we're simply stretched too thin. And August and December 2024 is bringing that to your your awareness so that you're able to grow what it is that you are really wanting to grow. And with Saturn, maybe getting a reality check around, okay, this side hustle came in handy when the kids were younger. Now my business is doing better, so maybe I could redistribute there, or redistribute something else. Like, there can just be an energy around needing to redistribute. So it's not necessarily around everybody needs to give up and surrender and be defeated, but there can be an energy around hitting a wall, around trying to do it all, okay? Trying to do it all and trying to be it all. And for some, I feel that there is this tension between the growth that you are craving versus the status quo. Some of us are trying to run to their new life, and their old life is snapping them back and saying, not so fast. No, you didn't. Because Saturn is consistent, but it is slow. So some, it's like, I'm wanting to grow. I'm wanting to move forward. I'm excited about these things. But it's like, gosh, every time I take one step forward, it's like I just get snapped back into place. Like, my life feels so stagnant. I feel so stuck. That could be a phrase that you are feeling or that you're hearing from people around you. I feel so stuck. I feel so stuck. Because fundamentally, Jupiter's on freedom and growth and moving forward. And with Saturn, it's like, oh, no, you don't. And it's not saying that you are not growing. It's not saying that you are not moving forward. If that's the story for you, I would just look at if there are lessons that you are still needing to learn from this chapter of your life until you could advance to the next one. Because again, we as humans, we only have one perspective on it. Spirit has all of the bigger picture cycles that are playing out. And we, from our vantage point, could be like, I just want to quit my job and start my own business. But it feels like every time I try to do so, I feel snapped into place. That might be bringing up that there might be lessons that you are meant to learn at your 9 to 5 before you can transition into self-employment. Like, this delay might be your biggest blessing, truly. And it's hard to see that within the present moment. And again, you could be like, God, universe, spirit, I've been praying and praying to get out of this job, but you're not showing up for me. Like, that makes me feel a lack of faith within the divine, right? But the divine is like, no, trust me. Like, you're going to need this space to continue to build your emergency fund. And you still need to learn this lesson with your coworker. And you're going to learn a new piece of technology next month that you're going to pull into your business. Like, we don't see the bigger picture. And so what you could be feeling very stuck and stagnant around could be preparing you. And with Jupiter and Gemini, just looking at what are the lessons that I'm still learning within this particular chapter of my life? Like, if I'm stuck here, right? If I'm stuck here, I'm not feeling any forward moment. Let me look around. Like, let me find, what does the universe want me to see? I'm seeing with my mind's eye. This is so silly, but I used to play these Nancy Drew computer games and you had to like solve mysteries. And I remember sometimes you would be in a certain room and you had to find something in order to leave the room. And I remember one of the Nancy Drew computer games, I was in this particular room and I was so annoyed. I was like, get me out of this room. Like, what do I have to do? Like, should I pick up this book again? Should I look at that trophy again? Like, I was so stuck. I was like, get me out. I want to get to the next level. But I had to like read this letter. Like, there was more data for me to find in that room, even though I was so stuck and I was like, okay, I'm done. Get me out of the room. Where's the trapdoor? Where's the whatever? How am I going to beat this level? There was still information for me to be gathered within that room before I was able to advance to the next level. Not that we're all playing Nancy Drew computer games, but that energy could be alive within you, within whatever you feel stuck in. Might not be a room in a Nancy Drew computer game, but it could just be a relationship. It could be a job. It could be something that you're like, please, universe, get me out of this. Have you looked through all of the clues? Have you extracted all of the data, all of the lessons from this particular room before you can advance to the next level? Because if you're experiencing this energy around being stuck, that could be the universe signaling to you, you're not seeing it. You're not seeing it yet. And so rather than fighting and forcing, there's an energy around, okay, spirit, what do I have to learn here before I'm able to advance? Because with the energy of Saturn, it will not open that door until it is ready to. And again, that could be preparing us. And again, that could be preparing us within the bigger scheme of things. That could be a lesson that we are seeking to learn. And also the energy of Saturn, it's honoring slow and steady growth is still growth. Like, you can feel like, oh, I feel so stuck. I'm still in the same room in this Nancy Drew computer game. I'm still in the same chapter of my life. I'm so stuck. I'm so stuck. I'm so stuck. Your life is slowly shifting and evolving and growing. It's showing up in a slow way because that's Saturn's whole thing. But your life is moving forward. You are moving forward. And just knowing that with the energy of August and the energy of December, these slowdowns can be your biggest blessing, truly, to a bigger picture. of things and playing by Saturn's rules, which is really wanting to build a solid foundation for our growth. Oftentimes, if we get what we want right when we want it, do we really have this solid foundation for ourselves? Like taking back to that curious student, right, at the university, if he was to get all of the answers to his questions, is that setting his education up on a solid foundation? And like with Saturn energy, slow and steady is sometimes the way to go, and just making something solid so that you have the structure to support that growth. You know, Jupiter and Gemini has to deal with, you know, communication and social media and things of that nature. And I just think of, you know, those overnight successes, or those people who kind of like blow up overnight. And yes, some of them are able to turn that into a long-term career, but some are not, because sometimes when something comes on too much, too soon, it's like quick up, quick down, right? And sometimes individuals who build their social media career or their communication career in a more slow and steady way, it's more sustainable, right? And it gives you the ability to acclimate to the new levels that you are rising to. So taking it away from even social media, whatever it is that you're building, it's almost like when you climb a mountain, you get used to every oxygen level as you arise. If you were to take a plane to the top of Mount Everest, you would not be able to breathe because you have not earned the lung capacity. Like, you actually acclimate the more that you go up because it's slow and steady, right? So that when you're at the top, it's sustainable, right? You're able to take a pic and celebrate that you climbed freaking Mount Everest. And so sometimes when we ask the universe for a helicopter to take us to the top of what it is that we want, it's like, will you be able to breathe? Will you be able to sustain that? Sometimes a slow and steady path is the best pathway forward. Sometimes that is a blessing, even if we're feeling stagnant or stuck or feeling like it's taking too long. So remain consistent with the energy of Saturn. If it's a vision, if it's growth that you want to continue to move towards, know that these slowdowns can be your biggest blessing. Keep your eye on the prize. Continue to have faith within your journey. And so some other just collective themes that we could observe before I get into the nuances of the two aspects. The first is that Jupiter governs the legal system. So with the energy of Saturn squaring Jupiter, there can be some legal themes that are coming up potentially. Jupiter is also religion, religious themes. There could be travel issues that are highlighted, economy. Jupiter is abundance, so we can absolutely experience slowdowns within that regard. The first time that the two planets get together, Jupiter is direct. Again, Jupiter has been sprinting through the cosmos. Jupiter is already to 17 degrees Gemini. Jupiter just entered Gemini late May. Like, Jupiter has been going, and has not had any hindrances to its growth. And with the square to Saturn, it's getting a check-in hardcore because Saturn is retrograde. So Saturn is reviewing. That's why this is big adjustment energy, because Saturn is reviewing what it is that we're invested in and if it is serving us. And so with this energy of Jupiter squaring Saturn retrograde, it's this energy around, okay, this is what I'm wanting to grow or put out into the world. Direct is more out in the world energy. With Saturn retrograde, do I have the bandwidth? Do I have the time? Do I have the resources? Is the universe supporting this? Could be an energy that we are kind of contemplating with this square. And like I said, what I find fascinating about these Jupiter square Saturns is that it's not just Jupiter square Saturn. They're pulling in other players in the cosmos. It's kind of like the vibe when there's drama, pull in other people like, Michael, you saw what Lucy said to me. And then Willa pulls in her friend Ed and is like, well, Ed saw the text message. Like, when they're pulling in other players, trying to get people to their side. Like, that's kind of the vibe with both of these Jupiter square Saturns, pulling in some other mutable players into this ongoing tension that's alive within the cosmos. Speaking to August alignment, these two planets are pulling in the passion planet. Hence why when I was talking about this energy from a bigger picture, I pulled in these themes of like desire and want and love and even lust, right? With Venus and Mars. It's like, but I want this person, right? But I desire this. Why is this not happening for me now? Why is this not happening for me now in the way that I want it, right? And so when we look at this alignment, Venus will be in Virgo opposing Saturn and squaring Jupiter. And really what Venus in Virgo is adding to this discussion is, what is it that we value? Again, Saturn is saying, what do we have the resources to support? Jupiter is saying, what do we want to grow, right? And Venus is saying, what do we value enough to grow? Because Venus is not so happy where she is either, being in Virgo. She is in her fall here. So she's being very discerning. She's like, okay, you might want to grow within this arena, but do you value it enough to make the sacrifices necessary in order to move that too? That's what Venus in Virgo is adding to the chat. She's adding her 2 cents when it comes to this showdown. Now, Mars is buddied up with Jupiter. And the thing about Mars and Jupiter is that we could be feeling a little bit of bravado, right? Like with Mars, Jupiter, it's like, why can't I have what I want? This is what I desire. Why can't I? And they're kind of like hyping one another up, right? But Saturn is kind of like, not so fast. I know you desire this a lot. I know you want this to happen fast. That's very Mars-like. But we need to play by the rules of time, of structure, of resources, of spirit, of what's meant to be, divine timing. Like, as much as we want something and we desire something, sometimes there are obstacles that are in our paths and we could burn ourselves out trying to do it all around, I could do it all, I could do it all. And the energy of Saturn is like, but can you, right? But can you? And you know, Mars is around anger. And so some of us could be feeling a little angry with the universe, a little mad. You could find that you're a little more testy with others. A lot of people could be really striving to force their own will, right? To try to like manipulate circumstances to go favorably within your way. But again, with the energy of Saturn, we may just not have the bandwidth. There might be obstacles. There might be the element of time. Like no matter how much we desire something and want something, we cannot force things into will. But the thing about this aspect is a lot of us will be feeling like we can. We might be feeling ourselves a little bit with Mars, Jupiter. And again, I'm not saying to give up. I'm not saying to surrender with Mars, Jupiter. Put your best foot forward, right? Allow yourself to move confidently within a new direction. Just make sure that you have the resources to support it and that you value it enough to fight for it or to move within this direction. And try not to fluff up your ego too much. Because the thing about these two together, Mars, Jupiter, is that yes, they're a powerful match. We're wanting a lot. We're wanting to grow in a certain arena. But when we look at Jupiter as a player to this, yes, Jupiter is the planet of luck and expansion, but Jupiter is not comfy within this alignment. So Jupiter might be hyping up Mars saying, yeah, you got this and let's fight for this and let's do this. But at the end of the day, like when the fight comes, Jupiter and Gemini is not exactly the person that you want in its corner because Jupiter and Gemini could be a little flip-floppy. It could tell us we're in the right and tell somebody else they're in the right as well. And so there could just be an energy where there's a strong temptation to bite off more than we can chew, which Saturn is moderating right away. Now, for some of us, it's just an energy around observing where we've already bitten off more than we can chew, where our energy is already scattered, where we're already feeling defeated and overwhelmed. And for others of us, there could just be an energy around thinking that you can overcome burnout, right? Or that you can overcome time. Or if I was only more organized with my schedule, then I'll be able to get it all done. And again, be empowered where possible. Venus and Virgo can be helpful in finding the organization in order to more efficiently conquer your goals. But just knowing sometimes there's not realistically time in the day to do all of the things that you want to do in the capacity that you want to do it. Sometimes your physical body does have limitations, desires such as rest. And no matter how bad you want something, sometimes it's just not meant to be, and that's okay. But I feel that this Mars-Jupiter energy is not going down without a fight. My advice to you is absolutely fight for what is important to you, but also honor where you're experiencing a lot of resistance. And so that may be the universe telling you, hey, slow down. We love the enthusiasm, but slow down, slow and steady. It is truly a marathon and not a sprint. And with Mars, Jupiter, we could be trying to sprint, and that's not sustainable for long-term success, which ultimately Saturn is trying to set you up for. This is really the energy of this. And so getting to the next time that these planets get together, they're rehashing the beef, okay? The first beef happened in August, so pay attention to what comes up in August because there could be some themes reflected in December. And the circumstances of how the two are getting together now are quite different. Jupiter is now retrograde and Saturn is now direct, and the two get together at 14 degrees. So 14 degrees Gemini is where Jupiter is, 14 degrees Pisces is where Saturn is. So they're rehashing the same beef, but the circumstances have shifted. The tables have turned. And now with Jupiter retrograde, there's like this more internal reflection around where is it that I want growth? What do I have personal faith in? What do I believe in? And Saturn's direct. So there's this energy of what's coming alive within December where you may find that you are more able to enforce the boundaries that maybe not all of us did in August. Maybe August's lessons was just how burnt out and stressed you were trying to do everything for everyone and feeling the effects of that, but not necessarily enforcing the boundaries, just realizing I need more boundaries. And maybe in December, you're more able to enforce those boundaries. Maybe the energy of December is enforcing externally what needs to happen in order to truly grow, because ultimately Jupiter Jupiter and Saturn are about growth in a certain way. Saturn is very slow and steady around building something of long-term value. And now Saturn's direct. So we're wanting to enact that. And with Jupiter retrograde, we could be contemplating what are the rituals, the routines that make me feel more faithful within my pathway forward? What makes me feel more optimistic? What is the vision that I have? And how can that support my efforts in the external world? That may be more of the dialogue when it comes to December. Now, these two are pulling in another character into the showdown. They are pulling in Mercury in Sagittarius into the showdown. And so Mercury in Sagittarius will be opposing Jupiter in Gemini, which is the planet that it's answering to, and Jupiter in Gemini is answering to Mercury in Sagittarius. So these two are in mutual reception during this showdown. And what that means is that they're in one another's territory. And so there's like an ask to balance where it is that we are optimistic and where it is that we have faith in our journey and in our growth, to balance that with logic, to balance that with what makes sense. So in a weird way, even though they're opposing, they are somewhat getting along, right? And then they're squaring Saturn. And so they're squaring Saturn, which is really pulling this story around, how are we communicating around our beliefs? How does our vision make sense within the bigger picture of our world? And just knowing that with the energy of Saturn and with Mercury in Sagittarius, sometimes the truth hurts, but hurtful truth is better than a comforting lie. Okay, that's really what's going to come alive in December around. There may be certain information, even just certain news, that is very disheartening. It's like, dang, that's not what I wanted to be the case. But again, we're not seeing the bigger picture. It kind of gives that energy, pulling in the professor-student analogy from earlier. Like if the student were to go into office hours and say, you know, how am I doing? How can I be doing better? And the professor being very honest around, this is where your performance has been lackluster. This is where you could be doing better. Again, the student probably wants to hear, no, you're doing great. You're doing great. Will that really help our process of moving forward? It's also like going to a psychic and like asking, I love this person. Are we going to get married? And they say, this person's not good for you. Like, just because something hurts to hear does not mean that it is not beneficial for our soul. And there could be certain blunt truths that we are being forced to acknowledge, right? Like that's a huge part of the Saturn and Pisces story has been, we cannot live in Delulu. We cannot live in fantasy. We cannot continue to escape and run from ourselves. We're needing to face things head on. And that hurts sometimes, at least to this level, but it's going to hurt a whole lot more when you realize down the line just how much time you've wasted keeping yourself within some sort of comforting lie, or time you've wasted running from the truth, when a lot of times, Mercury in Sagittarius reminds us this, the truth does set us free, even if it does hurt our feelings. And that could be coming alive with this alignment that lands December 24th. So now that we have a look at this transit collectively, I want to take it into personal. Where are you feeling this conflict around what within your life is growing and expanding versus what within your life is slowing you down and holding you back? And to this, we'll want to look to your own individual chart and take it to your individual reading. So when it comes to our sign-by-sign forecast, I will be structuring this reading a little different than my other all signs forecasts. And so there's two options of how you can proceed. The first, I've categorized all of the different readings based on rising signs. So what you'll do is you'll find your rising sign and advance to that timestamp. That is your reading. Particularly if you're newer to astrology, just go with that. Or if you utilize whole sign house system, that will be your individual reading. So if you're familiar with my channel, you may know that I am a Placidus astrologer. And while that is the house system that I utilize, it can be more complicated in figuring out where exactly certain energies land within your chart. So if you also utilize Placidus house system, I will walk you through step by step where exactly you can find out where these two Jupiter square Saturn energies will align within your chart. So those who are familiar with my channel may know that I am a Placidus astrologer, which is a little bit more complicated to figure out where exactly this tension will land within your chart, but walk with me. We'll go on a journey. So firstly, what you'll do is you'll go to astro.com. You'll get a circle chart that looks like this. Amazing. And what we'll want to find is where exactly you have Jupiter at 17 degrees Gemini and Saturn at 17 degrees Pisces. That's the first aspect. And where you have Jupiter at 14 degrees Gemini and Saturn at 14 degrees Pisces. They may land in the same sector. They may be different, but I'll walk you through exactly where to find what reading you should listen to. So first, let's start with Gemini. The Gemini glyph glyph looks like this. And what we'll want to do is find 14 degrees and 17 degrees. So these little marks indicate increments of 5. So we'll go to the beginning of Gemini. This is 0 degrees Gemini. It's bordering Taurus. The glyph looks like this. And this first mark indicates 5 degrees Gemini. So we go to the next one. This is 10 degrees Gemini. We go to the next one. This is 15 degrees Gemini. Now, right before that 15 degree mark, this is 14 degrees Gemini. And then a little bit after that mark, this is 17 degrees Gemini. So within this chart, Inner Planet Janet on screen, we see that both of those are within the second house. Now we want to get second house. So we'll want to remember Jupiter and Gemini in the second house. Then we'll want to go to the Pisces sector of your chart, which the glyph looks like this. And you'll want to start from the beginning, the part that borders the glyph Aquarius. So this is 0 degrees Pisces. So we go 5, 10, 15. Amazing. Right before that, this is likely 14, this sector of the chart. And a little bit after that, this is likely 17. And we see that this also is within the same house, the same sector of the chart. And for Inner Planet Janet, this lands within the 11th house. So Inner Planet Janet would listen to Jupiter in Gemini in the second house, squaring off with Saturn in Pisces within the 11th house. Now, for some of you, you may have to listen to multiple readings to understand the tension between the two. You may need to mix and match in order to figure out your unique story. You may listen to a reading that is not organized under your own rising sign. Do not worry. So long as you did the steps of what I just showed, that is your reading. I've just organized it based on approximate rising sign, which may be your rising sign, it may be different. In Placidus, there is room for shifting there. If you're like, ooh, Haley, it looks like 17 degrees Gemini might be in my second house, might be in my third house, I do want to highlight that at the top of the chart, there is a button that says PDF additional table. And to the right-hand side, it'll tell you where every house begins. So let's say you see the third house begins, 18 degrees Gemini, you can have confidence around, okay, I'll listen to the second house reading. Because if the first aspect lands at 17 degrees, the second aspect lands at 14 degrees, those both land within my second house because the third house doesn't begin until 18 degrees Gemini. So hopefully that gets you familiar around which readings you should listen to. And without further ado, let's go ahead and take it into our sign by sign, house by house analysis. If you are an Aries ascendant and or Jupiter in 14 to 17 degrees Gemini lands in your third house and Saturn in 14 to 17 degrees Pisces lands within your 12th house, then this is your reading. And this is the tension that you could feel alive within August 2024 and December 2024. So for you, the tension is between knowing when to speak up and knowing when to shut up. Because what I can see for some of you is that there might be this tension around your tendency to have foot in mouth situations where you're like, ooh, shouldn't have said all that. Because I know I'm talking to a lot of Aries ascendants, not necessarily everybody, but a few of you. And Aries can be very impulsive. And with Jupiter in your third house, you could be being quite impulsive with your mouth. And there's certain things you need to keep private right now. There are certain things you need to keep sacred. There are certain things you need to keep to yourself. It might be other people's secrets. It might be your secrets. It might not even be secrets altogether. It could just be projects, initiatives, ideas that you're not ready to put out there. I'm a big believer in keeping things sacred until it's ready to be released to the world. I think sometimes when we talk about things too soon, their energy, their opinions can infiltrate it. And I just see for some of you with Saturn in the 12th house, there's just certain things that you are wanting to keep sacred. There's certain things that you're just wanting to keep to yourself, whether it's in a germination period, you're building some sort of creative project, you're building something in secret, or there's just elements of your own healing or the work that you're doing on yourself that you're not wanting to speak up about. Or if you do speak up, you can experience some consequences around speaking up about it. This energy is not just about talking about it, it's around being about it. So you might find that you are less inclined during this time to tell people about your spiritual practices or about your journey with sobriety or the secret project that you're coming out with in a little bit because you want your actions to do the talking for you. And if you have been talking a lot and sharing a lot, this energy may signal to you, ooh, this is something I'm going to want to keep to myself from now on. Because something about 12th house is that 12th house is about hidden enemies. And I'm not saying you have any haters. I'm not saying you have any evil eye, but you may, and you might not be seeing it. And with Jupiter in 3rd house, you could be spilling all of the tea of your personal life. You could be posting to your social media, broadcasting to someone that you didn't know is a secret hater. And so you might find that you're less inclined to share. You could be opening up less about your life. You could be posting less on social media. Again, you're wanting to not just talk about it, you're wanting to be about it and honor that pull. Like your intuition might be trying to tell you something. If you notice that you're not drawn to the apps that you're typically drawn to, or you go to share some gossip and you just have this resistance, honor that. I remember I would feel physically repulsed. I know that's dramatic. Physically repulsed by a certain app. Obviously, running a business, there's a pressure around always got to post. But something within my spirit was just like, I do not need to be on this app. And now looking back, I see why I was guided to not necessarily share, or who within my audience or within my space may have been sending secret, not great energy my way. And so honor that. Why I love dialing into astrology is because when we honor these cycles, we can honor that it's just that. It's a cycle, it's a season, it's a transition. And you may find that you are a little bit more guided to keep things inward. And there will come a time in which you are more inclined to share. And you may just be asked in August and December to just really work that muscle of discernment. Before you post something with Saturn in the 12th house, meditate on it around, does this feel in alignment with me? Does this feel in integrity? This is not a time to speak, whether it's online or elsewhere, without thinking. Like really take a beat. Even if you're going to go send some sort of text to someone, meditate on it. Wait 6 hours. Wait some time. This is not a time to communicate without being thoughtful around it or without getting all of the information on it, because that's what happens when you wait sometimes. Sometimes when you don't talk and you wait for other people to do the talking or the situation to do the talking, you get all of the answers that you need. So hold back. If you're feeling tempted around this time to call someone out, if you're feeling tempted around this time to speak up on a certain matter, I'm not saying that you shouldn't speak up about it, but with Saturn energy, maybe hold back just a moment. See if there's information that naturally presents itself. Listen to your intuition on which conversations you want to take part in and where it is more wise for you to listen and to really exercise restraint. That's the energy of the square to Saturn. It's like, ooh, I have so much that I want to say here, but let me just exercise restraint to ensure that I'm intentional with my words. Other themes that may come alive. Some of you are being asked to learn mental mastery. You are learning to have a more profound sense of control over your mental space. And I'm not saying that's controlling every single thought that is within your brain. I'm just saying with the square to Saturn, you are learning to have discipline in order to stop self-sabotaging mental behaviors. Some of you are realizing you're your own hidden enemy. What now? What now? Because you're talking to yourself like you are. And Jupiter square Saturn could be making you recognize all of the missed opportunities because of your own inner dialogue. And for some of you, I'm feeling you might think that you are somebody where I don't finish what it is that I start and I don't have the staying power. And sure, maybe that's true. I know I'm talking to a lot of Aries Risings who tend to be drawn to beginnings. But what I'm seeing is that you self-sabotage yourself before you even give yourself the opportunity to get better at something. Like you could try something and be like, oh, I'm not immediately good at this, then I'm not going to do it. Or you go to practice a skill on the 3rd day and then you're like, there's no point. Why even try? Like again, the consistency to still show up. Yes, it's our physical actions, but I'm seeing it's also the mental dialogue that we have as we show up for it. That's necessary. That's what makes it turn into a marathon and not a sprint, right? Is our self-talk to keep going. And some of you are learning consistency as it relates to a new skill that you've been wanting to take on. For some of you, maybe it's not about talking less on social media. Maybe some of you are working the muscle around showing up more. And again, just ensuring it's in alignment with your integrity is the biggest thing. But maybe for some of you, when you go to post, you're like, oh, who cares what I have to say? Or I look ugly here. Consistency, my love, is what you could be guided to look to during this time. Now, with 12th house being self-undoing tendencies, I do feel some of you could be getting sober. And maybe you're having a harder time in communication circumstances because you are sober. There could be an energy around not exactly having the framework to explain to other people why you're making the decisions that you are, why you're cutting out the bad habits that you are, whatever it may be. Cutting out certain habits that are making you feel a little bit more alone. And you may not be feeling understood in that. You may not be feeling like other people see your point of view, but you are focused on bettering yourself. And you are focused on working the muscle around how you can see the world more optimistically. If you are a Taurus rising, or Jupiter in 14 to 17 degrees Gemini lands in your second house, and Saturn in 14 to 17 degrees Pisces lands in your 11th house, this message is for you. And the tension that you are experiencing around expansion and restriction shows up around your finances, your worthiness, and your long-term visions for the future and your friendships. So let's get into it. The first theme that I want to get into is that some of you can be feeling constricted by societal expectations. And this restriction can be particularly hurting your wallet. For some of you, maybe you felt this pressure that you need to say yes to every single bachelorette party in every single tropical destination. You've been like 5 people's maid of honor, or even if people aren't getting married, maybe you've just had certain pressures around your friends, around let's go out, let's go here, let's go there. And you've had Jupiter in the second house, so there could have been this energy around, yes, so fun, yes, yes, yes. But around this time, you may start to feel some of the consequences that when we say yes and yes and yes, there are certain things that we need to say no to. And you might be looking at your savings that feels depleted and being like, dang, and saying yes to everybody else and keeping up with everybody else. I said no to myself. And you might find that you are enacting some boundaries around this time around what you can and cannot participate in to a social level. And some of those conversations are driven around your finances, around your resources, around I cannot say yes to everybody. Like in this economy, no. And some of you are putting your foot down in that regard, or at least there's this desire to restructure your finances in some way to ensure it is in alignment with your long-term visions for the future, to ensure you are saving and budgeting for the future that you envision within your mind. For others of you, I do see that you could be experiencing some frustration, some blockages around finances. You want a new job so deeply, yet you feel like there's nothing available. You might have gotten a new job. Maybe there's more money coming in, but with the energy of Saturn, it never feels to be enough. Some of you could be feeling quite dejected about your financial status at this time. But the energy of Saturn really asks for consistency. It asks to really be realistic around what's going in and what's going out. It's really moderating Jupiter. Because the thing about having Jupiter in the second house is that yes, we can earn more, but we can spend more. So Saturn is sort of checking Jupiter around if we do have more resources to us, how can we budget them and plan them towards the future that we want to build? Because that is the focus with Saturn in the 11th house. Outside of financial themes, second house also has to deal with self-worth. And some of you are not feeling so good about yourself because you are comparing yourself to other people. You could be comparing yourself to your friends. You could be comparing yourself to strangers online, and starting to make judgment calls around your own worthiness because of it, around, well, if I was more valuable, then I would have a relationship like these people, or I'd have a bank account like these people, or I'd have a lifestyle like these people. And it's just not healthy stimuli for you to be taking in. It's important during this time not to compare yourself to other people's journeys, and really just with the Saturn square to Jupiter, really just work the muscle around showing up to be the best that you can be, so that you can feel good about yourself at the end of the day, knowing that you are building towards how you envision the future, knowing that you are showing up for the humanitarian visions and goals that you want to create, like things that you genuinely value. That's the energy of second house. And for some of you, there just could be this energy where you're restructuring your life to ensure that what it is that you truly value is part of your future plans. And there's a need to disconnect from what other people consider as valuable in order to tap into what do I consider as valuable? Because that will guide these steps forward for you around the future that you want to build and the humans you want to build it with. Because I'm also seeing there might be a tension around certain values differences, around your friendships, around your social groups, around realizing, oh, we have different values. And something I always say about Jupiter energy is that, to grow means to outgrow. And that can be sad sometimes when there's a certain friendship group and you're just realizing, hey, we are not evolving in the same direction, or your values, I just can't get behind it. But just know that it is a testament to your own growth when you no longer resonate with the same familiar circumstances and people. That is a sign that you are evolving, that you are on path, and that's okay. I'm not saying everybody needs to cut off all of their friends, but some of you could just be starting to get data around, it just feels like we value different things. It just feels like we're building different futures. And I'm really wanting to be surrounded by people who I do feel are like-minded and who have similar values to me. And like I said, some of this could come up financially, potentially. For others of you, I see that you could just be looking at your finances and your altruistic fund and things of that nature and contemplating certain restructuring that you want to do in order to fund the humanitarian projects and charities that do mean a lot to you. That also could be coming up. If you are a Gemini rising and or Jupiter in 14 and 17 degrees Gemini will land in your first house, and Saturn in 14, 17 degrees Pisces will land within your 10th house. This is your reading. This is your message. This is your tension. So it's showing up around self and around your public persona. And I'm seeing for some of you, work has been a lot. You've been feeling constricted. You've been feeling pressurized. Some of you could have a boss that makes it really difficult to work under this person. Some of you have just been challenged. Maybe you've ascended to a new position of leadership. You have a lot of pressure on you. You're very burdened at work. And with the energy of Saturn in the 10th house, this is a time that you're being guided to work hard, to prove yourself. And in August and December, you could be feeling this profound tension around who it is that you need to be in order to deal with those burden-ins, be the leader that you want, deal with the boss that you're having to deal with, and who it is that you want to be and your own growth. Because you're in a growth cycle currently. With Jupiter in the first house, you are being guided to learn new lessons and to figure out new sides to yourself and to look out at the world in a little bit more of a whimsical way. But you could be like, Haley, Comet, how am I meant to be whimsical when I have a schedule like this? When I have responsibilities like this? When I have pressures on me like this? You could be feeling this tension between the two. Some of you are feeling this around, I can't be myself at work. I have to fundamentally shut off certain components of who it is that I am, of the thoughts that I have, on how I communicate, on how I dress. Like there can be an energy where you're having to suppress or suffocate certain elements of how it's feeling good for you to express yourself. And that could be feeling uncomfortable. And for some, you're just wanting freedom and you're feeling very burdened by work. You're feeling burdened by responsibilities. You're feeling burdened by what it is that you're having to build. You're wanting to travel. You're wanting to learn. You're wanting to expand. You're wanting to learn something new. And this message is going to land differently for each of you, because for some of you, I'm seeing that the answer here is really around honoring the Saturn in the 10th house, where it's really around, I have taken on this responsibility. I have these pressures on me. I have these people that I'm managing. I have this team that I'm leading. I have this career that I'm building. Maybe some of you are just putting in the foundational work in order to build this career. And there's just an energy around honoring that this feeling of feeling stuck won't last forever. The ask is to continue going, to watch your mouth, right? Be intentional around how it is that you want to show up professionally. Elements of it might feel disingenuous to who it is that you are, but I just see some of you are learning restraint. You're learning that not every thought needs to be shared, that not every element of you needs to be available in regards to work, or even if you work for yourself, not everything needs to be part of what it is that you share online or what it is that you share as part of your business. Like some of you, I know I'm talking to a lot of Gemini risings. Some of you are honoring that you have two sides, and that's okay. Maybe you're learning to compartmentalize around, this is the side of me that is at work and this is the side of me that I am in my free time. And that's okay. Some of you, these pressures could be fundamentally making you want to make shifts, because you could be observing, I'm not learning what I need to within my life. I feel stagnant here. I'm not growing forward. Because the very nature of Saturn in the 10th house is that it's either pressure that really puts our career on a solid footing, or it's pressure that makes it clear, I can't do this anymore. And some of you are reaching that awareness around, for me to blossom and bloom into the person that I was here to be, this is no longer the path for me. Like I feel like I'm suffocating my growth. Maybe some of you have been at a certain career and you're observing that you are unable to grow or to blossom or to prosper within the discovery of yourself in this effort to keep this career alive, that you're realizing, I don't value this enough to build this any longer. It's time for me to potentially shift. And I'm not saying that this is the time to do anything drastic, but you may have this awareness around, I'm having this crossroads around, I can either choose this career or I can choose myself and choose my growth and choose something new. Like some of you might have a new opportunity come in that's exciting. You have something to learn there and you could be feeling suffocated around, but this is what I've built. This is what's expected of me. You could have this tension around, do I try something new even though there's more of a risk? Or do I stay with the same old, same old? And that judgment call is going to differ person to person. And I would just say, ensure that you have learned all of the lessons at your current workplace situation before you move on to the next, right? If you've been trying to move towards this new era and you just feel snapped back by your current career, there could be this ask to look around for clues with Jupiter and Gemini around, what have I learned here? Is there a challenging dynamic with my boss that I'm being asked to learn here? Or some element of my work that I'm being called to refine? Like really see, what are the lessons necessary so I can really move forward? Because sometimes when we do not master a lesson, it'll just repeat at the next job, right? With the next boss. If we have not learned to have boundaries, learn compartmentalization, again, it's going to differ for every single human. But some of you may be being guided around, what is the lesson here? How can I tie up this loose end? For some of you, you might be being curious around the lesson, and if your workplace is legitimately toxic and not optimal for your well-being, sometimes that data does come after you have departed, made the shifts in order to move your life into a different direction. It's really going to differ for everybody. But I will say that those who are being guided to expand and blossom into a new chapter, it's not to say that it'll be easy necessarily, but you should feel that you are supported, right? You are supported by the universe. If you're experiencing blockage after obstacle after obstacle after resistance, that may be a sign that your learning is not quite complete at this particular place or in this particular chapter of your business before you can blossom into the next. And to those who are self-employed, you could be feeling that you need to maintain a certain professional persona that might be outdated. You might feel that you have to do things as you've always done things, even though you're curious around, what if I could try something different? Maybe you're even restructuring your work tasks in order to allow more freedom within your own being, to learn new things, to try new things. You are in this growth cycle. But the thing about growth is that we do need to make adjustments. And especially if you've been feeling burnt out and stressed when it comes to career, there may be a need to restructure in some way, reorganize, delegate. Some of you could be learning something new that you will eventually parlay into your career. It is a time for growth, my loves, but just know that the growth for you may take place in a more slow and steady fashion at this time. If you are a Cancer ascendant and or Jupiter in 14 and 17 degrees Gemini lands in your 12th house and Saturn in 14 and 17 degrees Pisces lands in your 9th house, this message is for you. And this tension shows up for you in very spiritual houses. And so some of you could be feeling this tension around what is being told to you, what is being taught to you from professors and from priests and from spiritual wise souls versus what it is that you feel to be true, like within your own intuition. You could be feeling a push-pull between the two. For example, you're learning something around astrology, we'll just say, and inwardly you're like, ooh, that doesn't totally resonate with me. Like you could be feeling this block around, this is what I'm being told is the way to do this, or the upstanding way to do this, the time-honored way, but my own soul is signaling something different. And some of you could be rectifying those differences. And when it comes to some of you, you may be in academia, you may be in the process of learning something new, something more spiritual, academic, philosophical. And for some of you, because of the energy that you're investing within your belief systems, you are feeling alone. You're feeling more separated from the external world because you're investing so much time studying, because you are away at college. Like you could be also dealing with how disconnected you might feel with other people. And for some of you that could show up around literal, you feel disconnected. Some of you might be traveling, so you're not around your usual environments. And others of you, there just could be a disconnect around, because you are spiritually seeking at this time, you may not resonate with a whole lot of people right now. And that is a sign of growth, because I do want to let you know, if this is landing here, you will have Jupiter cross over your ascendant pretty soon, likely next year. And that's a big growth cycle. That's a big push out. And so a lot of you are in this preparation cycle. And the way that you know that your life is going to change is when a lot of things fall away at once. Like all of a sudden your friends move away. All of a sudden there's all of these changes. That's a pretty clear signal around you are expanding into a next chapter. And so for some of you, that could be happening. I'm not saying you're literally losing anything. I'm just saying there could be this energy around not resonating with the same people and places that you used to. And that's okay. Even if there's elements where you do feel a little lonely within the interim. Some of you could be mad at God. There could be certain endings and releasings that you're like, this is not fair. Like maybe you're someone who usually will say, you know, what's meant to be will be, and having faith within the bigger picture. But there might be certain things that have transpired that you're like, universe, God, spirit, what's going on? And it could make you question your religious beliefs, your spiritual beliefs, or even questioning your own intuition. Like for some of you could be asking, like, was I crazy? Did I imagine the whole thing? Like some of you can be feeling quite disconnected from your sense of faith, whether it was just like something was released from your life that doesn't feel fair, or there could have been something that you're finding was just kind of in the spiritual and not really rooted within the physical, which could be making you ask questions and like wonder what is real. I'm feeling for some of you, this could be the pulse. And for others, there's just this energy, you're wanting to run away. I see that strongly. And you could be feeling stuck. Like some of you are wanting to travel, you're wanting to move forward, you're wanting to expand, you're bored in some way. You could be feeling very stuck, trying to move forward and just feeling stuck. And this running away can show up around self-sabotaging behaviors, self-undoing behaviors, going to excess with things that you know are not good for you, or that you know do not help you feel more grounded within your reality. And for others of you, you may be investing a lot of effort in your spiritual gifts currently. And that process of tapping into your spiritual gifts and being able to delegate information and even channel wherever this is coming in, you might be feeling like that growth to tap in this more spiritual way has been a very slow and steady process. It's been very painstaking. It's been very frustrating. I'm feeling for some of you around, I've been investing so much energy into learning this skill, and I still don't even trust the messages that I receive. I don't trust myself as a conduit for information. And I'm seeing that just even with Jupiter being in Gemini within your 12th house around, is this anxiety? Is this my intuition? Like, where is this coming from? And it's quite natural when we have this kind of clash in the cosmos to not feel like our intuition is speaking to us. Like we could be looking for answers, like I said, within the external world, or even overthinking the answers that we are getting. And it's really important to bucket time for stillness, because sometimes those answers that we're seeking, they don't happen so loud, they happen in a very quiet way. And maybe it's even an answer that we don't even really want to hear, and that's why we're avoiding it or overthinking it or questioning or making other people's opinions on it more true than what it is that we feel to be true and potentially even know to be true. Like some of you, the journey of tapping in deeper to your intuition is trusting your intuition, not overthinking it. If you are a Leo ascendant and or Jupiter in 14 to 17 degrees Gemini lands in your 11th house of your natal chart, and Saturn in 14 to 17 degrees Pisces lands within the 8th house of your astrological natal chart, this message is for you. And there's a couple of different themes that are coming in. For some of you who are married, or you have joint finances with somebody else, someone is supporting you, you have a business partner, you have a spouse. For some, there could be this conflict that's showing up around your joint resources and the need to be discerning and practical around it, and your social circle. Maybe your spouse doesn't approve of how much you're doing with your friends and how much that's taking away from your shared budgets. Maybe there could even, if it's a business partner type situation, maybe there's a disconnect around where you should be allocating the funds for the future of the business or for the clientele that you are hoping to attract. For some, that's a tension that's coming alive. For others, ultimately, 8th house is around legacy. It's around what stays when we go. which is really the legacy that endures us. And with the energy of Jupiter in the 11th house and Saturn in the 8th, there just could be this awareness around what it is that you are creating, what it is that you're putting out there, and asking, is this the legacy that I want to leave? Am I building the long-term visions that are really the legacy that I want to be around me? And for some, this adjustment energy where you're realizing, not really. 8th house can bring in some themes around death and transformation. And for some of you, you can be really contemplating the transformation that is necessary in order to grow the visions that you want, how it is that you envision your future, or even the friendships that you are wanting to call in and to attract. Some of you could really be doing some transformational work around that. Others of you, due to your own experiences of grief and transformation, you're just recognizing that you no longer resonate with your social circle because of what it is that you have gone through, and because of, for some, you've just realized how finite this experience of life is. You're looking at who it is that you're surrounded by and you're like, I'm not on the same wavelength as these people. I don't want to continue to build with these people. I don't have the time to. And it's nothing scary whatsoever. I just feel that for some of you with Saturn moving through this sector, you are approaching life a little bit more seriously. And for some, you're looking at your party friends and your networks and you're just like, there's just not resonance any longer around what really means something to me about this experience and who it is that I am surrounded by. For some of you, if you do show up online, you have an audience, there can be something where you feel stagnant in that. Maybe the content you used to put out there no longer resonates. Maybe because of the transformation that you've been undergoing, you aren't showing up in the same ways to your audience, and that's okay. You know, as you grow, your audience will grow with you if they're meant to, or they will evolve in a new direction. And for some of you, you're recognizing the ways that you have stagnated your own growth in order to appease others, whether that's the audience you've cultivated on social media, your friendship circles, things of that nature. And this could be an adjustment energy around to say yes to everybody else means saying no to what really matters to me about this experience, and no more. Some of you are realizing, like, these visions that I have for the future, the things that I want out of this experience, it's going to take sacrifice. It's going to take transformation. It's going to take moving through some fears. It's going to take really getting real with myself around what I'm willing to sacrifice in order to build those visions and build those dreams within the outer world. For a lot of you, it's just getting on the same page as a spouse around how the two of you see the future and budgeting accordingly to that with your joint resources. If you're going through a divorce or something of that nature, there could be a focus on division of assets, which could show up in a financial state, but also with Jupiter in the 11th house, you might see that your friendship circles are going through a shift. You know, when it comes to divorces, we don't just divide the stuff. A lot of times it's like, who's still in my network, right? Who's still a friend and where is that shifted? And this might bring attention of that around how this dissolution of your marriage is resulting in some blockages around your friendships. You may be not even feeling inclined to want to be out in the world and making new friends and things of that nature because of what it is that you are moving through. You might find August and December is a time in which you're being a little bit more private. You're keeping things a little bit more to yourself, and that's completely okay. For others of you, if you do feel distant from a friend, maybe they're going through something that's very transforming, maybe you are. It's not saying that you need to cut everybody off, but just know in Jupiter in December, you might feel some distance, and that's okay. Like, I think the best sort of friendships are kind of those VCR friendships where you can kind of pause and pick up right where you left off, right? And not perceiving somebody else's distance as them not wanting to be your friend. Sometimes, especially with Jupiter square Saturn, we just could feel blocked from having the necessary time in order to invest in friendships. There just could be other arenas of their life that they are feeling inclined to invest into. Absolutely, I'm not saying it's ever appropriate to ignore someone or to ghost someone, but I'm just saying you may be feeling a little bit of distance around your friendships. And if you want, you can work the Saturnian muscle around how can we grow together, how can we get on the same page, but you may be feeling a little bit of tension around your friendships in some regard around this time. For some of you, if you receive some sort of lawsuit payout, you receive some sort of inheritance, something of that nature, you are being guided to be shrewd with that and to invest it in what will benefit your future. with the energy of 11th house. What will benefit me within the future? What is the future that I want to create, and how can I use this money intentionally in order to build towards that? 8th house expands across lots of different dynamics. There could be themes around taxes that come up right around this time, end of life plans that come up during this time. And it's just an interesting energy with these two houses being highlighted, because 11th house is essentially the future and having optimism for the future. Jupiter actually rejoices in the 11th house. It's in its house joy in the 11th house because it aligns beautifully with themes of the 11th house around expanding what it is that we want and our networks and like-minded souls that are around us. And 8th house is about things that fall away. And so I feel like a major theme to communicate to you all is that sometimes things fall away for better things to fall together. And you may need to work that muscle of being optimistic about your future, even if your present is feeling a little dark, is feeling a little challenging, is requiring a lot of transformation from you. If you are a Virgo rising and or Jupiter in 14 and 17 degrees Gemini lands within the 10th house of your chart, and Saturn in 14 to 17 degrees Pisces lands within the 7th house of your natal chart, this is your message, this is your reading, and this is your tension. It's showing up around career growth and relationship stagnancy. A lot of you have been doing the work around relationships. Some of you could have gone through a breakup, like with the energy of Saturn, looking at your long-term visions for the future and looking at your relationship and realizing you are not the person who's going to get me there. Like a lot of you have had to exercise more discerning look at who it is that you're partnering with and realizing with the energy of Saturn, our long-term visions are not aligned. And with the energy of Saturn, you're really doing the work to figure out the sort of long-term partner that you want, who it is that you are desiring. For others of you, you might still be trying to figure that out. And honestly, especially since for a lot of you, from a traditional standpoint, your descendant ruler is Jupiter, which is the planet that's being hit by the Saturn square, this aspect may sharpen into focus your relationship, and if it is one that you want to continue progressing in, or if your time in this connection is done. Like that tension may come alive within your relationship if you've been on the fence, if you've been trying to figure it out. Am I in this? Am I not? This aspect may absolutely illuminate, can I progress and grow within this connection, or have I outgrown it? Is it time to move in a new direction? For others of you, your marriage could have reached a rough patch. You could be investing a lot of energy into fixing your marriage. You could be going to couples therapy, something of that nature. Saturn is where we are being guided to do the work. And your relationship may be taking more work right now. If you are single, with the energy of Saturn, you may be feeling pessimistic about your relationship offers, or even questioning if the relationship of your dreams exists within this physical plane. You're having the Saturn influence within your sector of relationships. And like I highlighted, for a lot of you, your relationship ruler is being hit by a square to Saturn. So you're being asked to be very discerning and to think very long-term when it comes to your relationships and partnerships. And for some of you, there is this conflict that is coming alive around the investment that you're having to make within your relationship and the career goals that you are hoping to and wanting to move towards. Maybe your partner is saying that you're working too much, right? Maybe just the actual time investment into maintaining your partnership isn't allowing you to focus as much towards work. Maybe you and your partner are fighting a lot about work. Maybe some of you are wondering, should I invest more energy into my own career or invest my energy into, for some of you, not all, no fear, but for some of you, you're realizing this relationship cannot stand the test of time. And the energy that I'm putting towards my career is going to pay me out dividends. And this relationship, I feel like I'm investing all of this energy, and for what? Like some of you could be really asked to look at things and to look at them clearly. Maybe even some of you are dealing with a conflict around maybe work wants to take you in a new direction, or you would have to move in order to move towards this position, but your partner wants to stay here. Like you could be really feeling this crossroads around wanting to grow within work, but feeling quite stuck or stagnant because of your relationship. Maybe there's just certain responsibilities. Part of being in a partnership is holding you back from certain opportunities and growth that you are wanting within the public eye, and this could be feeling tense. I do want to say that the mutables, and I know not all of you, but a lot of you are Virgo risings, the mutables are really feeling the effects of this Jupiter square Saturn. And you could just be feeling pulled in a million different directions. Work could be busy, or you could be really wanting to expand in some way, but you're feeling blocked. You're feeling stuck. Maybe for some of you, your partner is holding you back in some regard, but you could just feel torn trying to please everyone. And the challenging thing about this transit is that only you know what's best for you. I'm not saying that you need to choose career or that you need to choose your relationship, but there just could be an energy around needing to make adjustments. For some of you, maybe it's your career is so busy that you don't have time to go out and find your life partner. And with the energy of Saturn, you're getting very acquainted with time, and you're like, okay, what sort of connection will stand the test of time? How much time do I have, right? And that could be something that's also factoring into your career around, I only have a set amount of time to invest within my career, and I need to exercise my time intentionally. I'm not saying everybody's going through a breakup. For some of you, could just be enacting more boundaries around, hey, I can't spend as much time with you, or hey, you cannot complain when I work late. Like, this is really important to me to succeed in this way. Some of you could be feeling this push-pull around wanting to learn something new or wanting to expand in a new direction and feeling that your partner is not being supportive of that. For some of you, you have legitimately been overworking, and your partner could have been highlighting that to you around, you need to slow down, you're going to burn out, you're going to burn out. And with Jupiter square Saturn, it could be you finally reaching this wall of potentially burnout. And outside of even the relationship themes of seventh house also has to deal with clients one-to-one. And maybe in this effort to please everybody, you are sacrificing yourself. You're spread too thin is what I'm feeling for a lot of you. And I'm feeling that you are being guided to come back to self around, what is it that I value? What is it that I want to build? Because if you build your business around what your clients want from you, you will not have the battery power in order to support it. If you build your business in terms of what you think will look the best, you will not have that passionate battery power to sustain it. Like, it's really important to come inward for answers. That might be hard for you because people have a lot to say about what you're doing right now. Like with Jupiter and Gemini in the 10th, some of you could be dealing with a lot of workplace gossip or a lot of eyeballs on you, a lot of people sharing their opinions around how it is that you work or even around your reputation. There could be a lot of chitter chatter. And with Saturn in the 7th house, even your interpersonal contacts could feel like they're being quite critical of you. And I feel for some of you, you're trying to please everybody. And this square just feels like an energy of recognizing, I can't please everybody. And I'm running myself ragged trying. And some of you are giving up the battle of trying to be perfect or trying to do it all or be it all for everybody. And you're making the necessary adjustments in order to grow in the directions that are right for you. You're really having to dim the noise and go within. If you are a Libra ascendant and or Jupiter in 14 and 17 degrees Gemini lands in your 9th house, and Saturn in 14 and 17 degrees Pisces lands within your 6th house, this message is for you. For you, you are experiencing this tension around where it is that you want to grow, move forward, have new experiences, travel, learn, live life in accordance to your own faith, and where it is that you're feeling suffocated and stagnated by your day-to-day responsibilities. For a lot of you, you're feeling quite restless. It's like, I want to move forward. I want to experience life. I want new experiences. Like, you just have this curiosity that's baking within your soul, but you don't have the space in order to go on all the adventures that you want to. Like with the energy of Saturn and Pisces in the 6th house, you've been quite busy. You've been quite busy. You're having to be very organized about your schedule. You're having to be very organized about your time. You have a lot of responsibilities on your plate. So it could be an energy around, I want to go on this retreat. I want to learn this new spiritual modality, but it's like, with what time? I already feel stressed out. I already feel burnt out. I'm already over capacity. I'm just feeling stuck. And for some, it's like even wanting to connect to your soul, but with the energy of Saturn in the 6th, it's like your life is so busy and so noisy, it's hard to like hear your soul speak because there's so much on your plate. There's so many burdens that are currently around you that you could be feeling quite stuck. For some of you, even if it's not showing in a spiritual way, you're just wanting to grow. You just want new experiences. You're so sick of the same old, same old. And you feel like, especially during this square, you could just feel stuck around, I want to move forward, but it's like my day-to-day is so draining that it's hard to even have the capacity to dream of the new adventures and experiences and learnings that I want to welcome in. For some of you, there can be challenges with coworkers. For some of you, you could just have a lot on your plate at work. You could be feeling overworked and underpaid. For some of you, you could be taking care of people or having to be of service. For some of you, you can have certain health struggles that are making you unable to adventure and experience life in the way that you want to. And perhaps, if possible, some of you are looking at your day-to-day, your routines, and you are looking at what's on your plate. And some of you are needing to have boundaries in order to say no to more things. You know, I know I'm talking to some Libra Risings, and some of you are learning that you cannot say yes to everybody. You cannot do everything. That might be showing up at work. That might be showing up within your family, just doing tasks and errands and taking on responsibilities for other people. It's blocking you. It's draining you. It's depleting you. And for some, you might have been aware of this, but this Jupiter square Saturn will make it deeply apparent. Because burnout shows up in many different ways. Some of you could be feeling very physically burnt out. Sixth house pulls in themes of health. But some of you are feeling spiritually burnt out. Like burnout also shows up around not having hope for the future anymore, not feeling optimistic, not even being able to have the space to envision the possibilities because you feel so suffocated by the now and what it's requiring of you. And there is a need for adjustment here. For some of you, you could be really looking at what consumes your time. You're having to get very organized and analytical in order to invite in more space. And to realize that space within your schedule is not an invitation for it to be filled, right? When someone needs a favor or something of nature, we need space in order to create. We need space in order to dive into the ninth house, right? To travel, to learn, to spiritually connect. We need space to do that. And your own time to yourself to question and to seek is not an invitation for it to be filled by what other people need from you. And for some of you, you're just stepping into, I'm worthy enough in order to have space within my life and reorganize my schedule until I have more time for the things that fill my soul up. Because listen, I'm not saying everybody needs to jet set and do all the ninth house themes, but ninth house energy could also show up on going on a hike, right? Looking for answers. It's just around where it is that we seek, where it is that we open ourselves up to wisdom, whether that's carving time to read more, carving time to pray more, carving more time to go to church, carving more time to go to sacred sites, nature, things of that nature. I just see that you're feeling very suffocated by your day-to-day responsibilities and looking at your schedule and being like, I have no time, but you are paying the price to a spiritual level. Like these activities are so helpful to plug into in order to refresh our energy stores. And maybe for some of you, it's even just incorporating things within your day-to-day that do help you refresh yourself energetically. I actually just got Reiki yesterday from a friend of mine, Melly. She created Reiki City here in San Diego. She's amazing. If you're in San Diego, deeply recommend going to see her. She is incredible. But anyways, I saw her yesterday and she was just telling me how drained and depleted my energetic stores are. And she was saying how important it is to ground down, that's to tether yourself into the earth, because when we send energy back into the earth, it helps to neutralize it. It helps us to release the debris and the gunk that we just kind of accumulate as we're navigating through our life. Like when we visualize ourselves with a grounding cord, we're able to kind of release that energy. And then it's equally important to plug into source energy to allow ourselves to be rejuvenated, because Earth is very dense. So we need to recycle the energy that's no longer serving us and then plug into universe source energy in order to replenish ourselves. So if you're finding like, Haley, Comet, this all sounds well and good, but my workload is my workload, I can't really move things around. Maybe it's scheduling practices that help you show up for your soul, that help you feel more spiritually open and intuitive. For some of you, you also could be getting really serious around your health. You're observing that your diet, your exercise routine, it's creating a distinct lack of mobility within your life. You can't travel where it is that you want. You can't even feel optimistic about your life because your body doesn't feel like it's working with you. And for some of you, it could be exercising more, you could be setting limits, you could be invoking a new diet in order to feel more free, in order to proceed forward. If you are a Scorpio rising, or you have Jupiter in 14 and 17 degrees Gemini landing within the 8th house, and Saturn in 14 and 17 degrees Pisces landing within the 5th house, this message is for you, this reading is for you. And the first tension that I could see showing up for you is this tension around what you want your legacy to be around and what it is that you are creating currently. And this is going to show up in many different ways. So the first way, if you are a creator, if you are somebody who is creative, you invoke your own creativity into how it is that you relate to the world. Some of you are looking at the legacy you want to leave and the body of work that you've created and realizing that there's a mismatch. You know, as we evolve as creatives, our art and our work evolves as well. And some of you might be finding, not that you need to have total awareness around what you want your legacy to be, but some of you could be looking at the novels that you've published and the services that you offer and just feeling like, gosh, there's other things that mean something to me that I want to be interwoven into the creations that I make. And for some of you, could be making that adjustment around no longer making the art that will sell well just because it'll sell well, wanting to make the art that you feel will stand the test of time, especially in who it is that you are as an artist and as a creative. Also, there could be a tension between a backer or someone who invests in your art and the art that you genuinely want to create. There could be a tension there. You could feel suppressed or censored in regards to your art in an effort to please stakeholders, investors, or people who are investing in your creativity in some way. For others of you, 5th house brings in themes of children, and 8th house brings in themes of shared resources. So maybe for some of you, you and your spouse are having to get serious in order to make adjustments to your joint resources in order to more effectively support your children, or even just have children altogether. Some of you could be having those tough conversations with Saturn in the 5th around, do we have the resources to support a child? What is necessary here? How do we make these adjustments? And with Jupiter in the 8th house, beyond even just having the resources, like some of you could even be contemplating, have we done the work? Like, have we done the work so that we do not continue on the patterns that we have internalized? Like 8th house can pull in themes of shadow work. And for some of you could be observing, like, have I transformed in the ways necessary where I feel like I could parent? And if you do have children, maybe you're having to do certain shadow work and that's being illuminated because of your children in some way. Like there's something that a child of yours is going through that's bringing you into certain facets of your own story and making you kind of dig into it, not to get stuck within your own dark night of the soul or the challenges and tribulations that you have evolved beyond, but just an energy around weaving it into wisdom. Like I really feel for some of you, Jupiter, Gemini, and 8th house, like you could be looking at past experiences that might have been very traumatic and troubling at the time, but seeing that there was a lesson that you could pull out from those experiences that you could give to your children in some regard with Saturn in the 5th house. I had a mentor who would always tell me that if you can really listen to other people and listen to their stories and listen to their lessons, you will avoid so many mistakes. And so maybe there's a certain awareness that's coming alive for some of you around, not that you're happy that that happened, but you're happy that you were able to internalize that lesson and share that wisdom so that maybe your kid doesn't make the mistake that you did or have to go through that trying time that you did. That's going to be a message for probably just one person, but I did want to highlight it. Other themes that could be coming alive. I just see a lot of you are being quite curious. You could be more into the occult. You could be really asking questions around things that are a little bit more secretive. I know I'm talking to a lot of Scorpio Rising, so that's kind of the wavelength you are typically on, but that could be particularly alive right now. And you might find that this curiosity that you're seeking is in some ways in conflict with what you used to consider as fun. Right now, life might not be feeling as fun. Just with Saturn being a very somber, serious energy going through the 5th house, which is very lighthearted, you could be experiencing the things that you used to find fun and enjoyable and your hobbies and partying may not be hitting the same. And that's okay. Like with Saturn, you are being asked to be more diligent around how you use your leisure time. And with the energy of Jupiter, you're just evolving, you're just transforming, and your leisure time is going to transform as well. What you consider as fun will transform as well. And I just see for some of you, because you are asking deeper questions, you could just be sick of things that are surface level at this time. You're really wanting to create things that matter to you. 8th house is around what remains when we aren't here. Like 8th house is around death, right? And nothing scary whatsoever. I'm just seeing that some of you are just realizing like we don't have as much time as we think that we have. And I really want to utilize my time intentionally around things that genuinely fill up my soul and aren't just quick fixes, aren't just an adrenaline rush. And for some of you, this is showing up as it relates to your intimacy. And you're really craving deep intimacy, deep soul connection. And you can just be over the situationships, over surface level dating. You're just like, listen, am I gonna wear your blood in a vial around my neck or not? Because that's what I want. I want deep soul connection. I'm sick of surface level. I'm sick of superficial. For some of you, that's the tension that's coming up. And you might be feeling disheartened. You could be feeling disheartened about your dating life. You could be feeling even creatively blocked for some of you. You could be feeling like life is not as fun. Life is not as fun right now. Maybe you're going through a transition period and there's a lot of unknowns. But it's important that it won't always feel like it does now and to allow in this transformation. If you are a Sagittarius ascendant and or Jupiter in 14, 17 degrees Gemini lands in the 7th house and Saturn in 14 and 17 degrees Pisces lands in the 4th house, this reading is for you. And I will just highlight, I know not all of you will be Sagittarius risings, but for those who are, just know the mutables are the main characters of this Jupiter square Saturn showdown. And even if you're not a Sagittarius rising, it's still landing in angular houses for you. So this will be a more pivotal, impactful energy. And to be quite honest with you, you could be feeling a little drained. You could be feeling a little scattered. For those who are Sagittarius rising, you are ruled by Jupiter and your ruler is squaring off with Saturn. And that typical Jupiterian brand of luck and optimism and faith in your pathway forward might feel a little suffocated, might feel a little stagnated at this moment. It will not always feel as it does right now. And for some of you, you're having this tension around where it is that you're wanting to grow and to move forward and where it is that you are feeling stuck or having to make hard decisions in order to grow and move forward. And to get specific on where this tension is showing up for you, it's showing up around your relationships, your partnerships, your one-on-one connections, and your home and your family. So let me walk you through a couple different ways that this is showing up. For some of you, you may be moving. And moving tends to be very hard, tends to be very challenging. It takes a lot of energy from you, but it is necessary to grow, right? Like sometimes that growth that we are seeking, this Jupiter energy around new city, new me, new friends, it takes a lot of Saturn energy where it's like, I gotta pack up all these boxes, I gotta find a place. A lot of times the growth that we are seeking within our life takes a lot of Saturn to make it happen. And for some of you, you could be feeling that, even if you're not moving, just this energy around, this is where I wanna grow and expand, but feeling very stuck by how long it's taking, by how hard it is, by the decisions necessary in order to move towards it. And especially if you're a Sagittarius rising, you're a very lucky, magical being. And you could be like, at this moment, a typical Jupiterian luck doesn't feel present. Like things could feel like they're harder right now. You could be having a certain crisis of faith and even doubting your pathway forward in some way. And for others of you, the story is showing up around you have freed yourself from a certain relationship. Listen, we don't talk about this enough when it comes to Jupiter in the 7th house. Yes, it can be a very happy time within connection. We can meet someone new, but a lot of times this is a transit in which we do feel inclined to spread our wings and to go into a new direction, which some of you could have already done. Some of you might be observing, I'm not happy that Saturn in the 4th house. It's time for me to grow and free myself from this relationship in order to move towards happiness. And that's a hard decision. Jupiter square Saturn, some of us are making hard decisions that will pay off within the long term, but I'll be forthright, could be hell in the short term. And with this energy, you could just be finding like my growth here is done. I'm not moving forward. I'm not happy in this relationship. It's time for me to evolve. And for some of you that involves a move. For some of you that involves family dynamics. For some of you that involves some really challenging conversations. But again, when the lessons are done, they're done. When it's time to go a new direction, it's time to go in a new direction. And I just see with Saturn transiting here, you're really wanting to get clear on what will make you happy. So if you are single, this this could be a time in which you're really wanting to do the work emotionally so that when it's time for you to connect deeply in partnership, you are able to. You've dealt with your stuff. You've done your emotional regulation. You've done your healing from your childhood. Like, you're truly ready. And again, I don't feel that we're ever perfectly healed, but I do think with a lot of you, you're currently in this really deep self-care, self-love, healing era with Saturn in this very foundational portion of your chart. And you're really gaining awareness around how the more work that you invest on yourself, the more that you will be able to commit within a true, genuine partnership and be able to evolve together rather than, trigger one another. And this will not show up as a breakup for everyone. So I do not want you to panic or stress whatsoever. If you are in a relationship, you might find that there are some squabbles or disagreements around location. There could be squabbles or disagreements around the maintenance of the home, like home responsibilities. You could feel like you're shouldering more of the errands around the home. You could feel like you're bearing more of the burden of childcare. Like, there just could be an energy where you're feeling a little bit more stagnated or stuck as it relates to your relationship and the running of a household together. And the answer for everybody is not to depart the relationship. It just could be working the muscle around what's necessary in order to have a happy home, in order to support one another's growth as individuals and grow together in a partnership. I do feel for some there's a need to really think critically around who it is that you want to partner with, around the home that you want to create, the family that you want to create, the family values that you want to build towards. That could also be showing up. You could be casually dating someone and around this time be like, listen, our values are misaligned. Like, we don't want the same thing in terms of home and family and location. And maybe that's an awareness around, no matter how optimistic I could be around this connection, a spade is a spade. Saturn is Saturn. Our lives are going in different directions. That's that. If our family values are different, that's that. If I want to have kids and you don't, that's that. Like, that is the vibe with Jupiter square Saturn. And sometimes that's a bitter pill to swallow, but with Jupiter square Saturn, it's just this energy around, I could either swallow this pill now or I could swallow it 2 years down the line. Like, Saturn is about time. And really with Saturn in the 4th house, you're not playing around when it comes to your happiness. You're like, I don't have the time to be unhappy. I don't have the time to not get what it is that I want, or to build the home that I want, or to have the family that I want. And so with Jupiter in 7th house, you're welcoming in the partnerships that will support that, and you're releasing the partnerships that are not in support of that. You're really protecting your happiness. You're really taking care of yourself is what I see, and you're really enforcing the boundaries necessary in order to do just that. And I do see that for some, there could be some ideological or even political differences around your marriage, your partner, and your family. There could be disagreements around family. There could be disagreements around family matters. Your family may not approve of your spouse. Your spouse may not get along with your family. Like, you could also have this tension showing up there. And again, with this mutable energy, you could feel like you're running around trying to please everybody, which is not sustainable for you. There just could be an energy around releasing this battle of trying to please everybody. And yes, will that take some uncomfortable discussions? May that take some hard decisions? Yes, having your likely ruling planet squaring Saturn isn't always an easy transit, but again, just making decisions that are in alignment with your integrity, that are protective of your emotional state, and that will support you in moving forward, whether it's on your own or within your partnership. If you are a Capricorn ascendant and or Jupiter in 14, 17 degrees Gemini lands within the 6th house, and Saturn in 14, 17 degrees Pisces lands within the 3rd house, this is your reading. And for you, this tension is showing up around your mind, your communication, your immediate surroundings, that's 3rd house, and your day-to-day routines, that is your 6th house. So there's a couple different ways in which this will manifest. The first being, you are having to be very clear about your boundaries. You're having to vocalize your boundaries, what you have bandwidth for and what you do not. Because some of you could have really bitten off more than you could chew with Jupiter and Gemini within the 6th house. You could have said yes to all of these extra work projects, or said yes to this extra volunteer responsibility, or what have you, and you're realizing how mentally scattered you are, that you have a lot on your plate and you're not doing any of them particularly well because you are so distracted, because you have so many different irons in the fire. Is that the phrase? Irons in the fire? That sounds weird. Hopefully you get what I'm saying. hands in the pan? Hands in the pan, that doesn't make sense. See, my brain is jumbled and your brain might be feeling jumbled as well, because you could just feel like you're pulled in many different directions. You know, this is a transit where some of us could be feeling burnout, and it's important to know that burnout doesn't always just manifest, you know, physically around feeling drained. It's also trouble focusing can actually be a sign of burnout, and some of you could be experiencing that. And with Saturn in the third house, really needing to be clear with your communication around what it is that you need in order to experience more enjoyment in your day-to-day, to find more enjoyment within your work, to be able to invest in wellness of not just body, but mind and spirit, I'm seeing is super essential here. So for some, there might be a need to be clear around, I cannot and will not stay late at work because there's other elements of my life that suffer when I do that. I'm not taking care of my health. I'm eating junk. My mind feels frazzled and scattered. Like, some of you could just be realizing that saying yes to everybody will have you saying no to yourself. And you're realizing, I need to be clear. I need to stand up for myself. For a lot of you, I'm talking to Capricorn Risings, you're ruled by Saturn. So you're doing a lot of work around communication. And I just see that there could be an energy around needing to be very clear with communication, especially around your schedule. Being clear with communication around why your presence is not needed at this particular meeting. Being clear with your communication around why you're not the best fit to take on this new task force at work that you're not being paid for. Like, there's just a need to be very clear, and to know that no is a complete sentence and I don't have the bandwidth for that is a complete sentence. You can say, I cannot stay late at work this week. They don't need to know that it's because you need to go to the gym after work. They don't need to know that. You know the care and keeping of self and what you need to operate as a fully functioning human. And there's just an energy where you're being a little bit more stingy and frugal with your time, and you're being intentional with your words. Because where I also can see this coming up is 6th house governs coworkers and work projects. And with Saturn in the 3rd house, this would not be a time that I would engage in workplace drama or gossip. Be very intentional with your word. Be very exacting with your word. Do not send emails unless you'd be comfortable with everybody knowing that. I just see that there could be a conflict around wanting to feel a sense of camaraderie around your workmates, and with Saturn in 3rd house, your words having consequences in some regard. So that's just a tension that I want you to be mindful of. For others, you are wanting to expand within work. You've either outgrown your current work responsibilities, you're wanting to welcome in new growth. Some of you could be learning certain skills with Saturn in 3rd house in order to support the growth in which you are seeking. Some of you are having to invest energy around applying, and some of you could even be feeling dejected around the work search process. You could feel like it's taking more time than you want. A saying that I love about Saturn is that Saturn delays, but it never denies. And again, I'm talking to a lot of people who are Saturn ruled, where you know good things come to those who wait. And so this is an energy in which you're being asked to have patience in regards to new work opportunities that you are calling in. For some, if you work with communication or something of that nature, they're going to need to be discerning around what is shared during this time. Some of you are being more disciplined as it relates to your social media. And maybe for some, you're feeling like your social media efforts are slow to catch up. Again, Saturn delays, but it never denies. I also see there's something around communication and health. And so maybe some of you are having to communicate, I don't drink, or communicate, I won't be eating dinner with you all because I'm vegan now. Maybe you're having to have some uncomfortable conversations around feeling a certain social pressure or workplace pressure to indulge in certain things. And with Saturn 3rd house having to be exacting around why you don't, and not feeling guilty or bad about that. And for some, I'm just seeing there's a need to be very disciplined with what's getting your time. And not just your physical hours, but also your mental energy. Some of you are setting limits around time on your phone. You're setting limits on the stimuli that you invite into your brain because you're wanting to just show up for your wellness, not just physical. Certainly, some of you could be working out more and all of that, but also your mental wellness around what amount of media you can consume before you start feeling depressed, right? Or what activities when you start your day make you feel more refreshed and rejuvenated, inspired, and which make you feel drained and depleted. Like for some of you, you're exerting boundaries in order to invest energy towards feeling your best in every way. So if you are an Aquarius rising and or Jupiter in 14, 17 degrees Gemini, lands within your 5th house, and Saturn in 14, 17 degrees Pisces lands within your 2nd house, this reading is for you. And where it is that you're experiencing this push and pull, these growing pains, is showing up around your fun and your funds to fund said fun. Because with Jupiter and Gemini in the 5th, you are wanting to have some fun. You're wanting to let your hair down. You're wanting to date. You're wanting to experience. You're wanting to party. But with the square to Saturn, you might be looking at your bank account and being like, ouch, do I have the resources to go out and party with my friends? Do I have the resources to take my crush out on a date? And perhaps that answer is no, and you're being asked to make adjustments where necessary. For some, you could have even found that the first portion of the year, you were going out a lot, you were partying a lot, and this might be a time that your bank account is starting to show that. For some of you, I'm even feeling that you could have been gambling, or you could have been vaping or partying, or something could have reached an excess in terms of something fun within your life. And with the square to Saturn, you're having to make adjustments in order to utilize your finances more wisely and more intentionally. With this energy, it's not saying that you can't have fun, but with the energy of Saturn, you may need to budget, you may need to reallocate. If you're wanting to date, you may need to cut back in certain places in order to invest energy there. You're just being guided to ensure that what is fun in your life is not reaching excessive levels, so that you're not gambling your money away or allowing your money to be suffocated by things such as vaping when you're out partying or things of that nature. For some of you who are creative, you can be wanting to use your finances to invest in certain creative projects, and that could be making you have to be a little bit more intentional around where your money goes. You know, Saturn is the planet of scarcity and lack, and some of you could be feeling that around your finances. Maybe life doesn't feel very fun right now because you don't have the finances to fund said fun. And others of you, you could just have certain financial goals that are making you feel this sensation of scarcity and lack in order to bucket towards what you really want to invest towards. And maybe for some of you, you're looking at how much money is going to nights out, how much money is going to things that are recreational but are not helping you progress forward and level up financially. And this could be a time to make the necessary adjustments to ensure you're moving in the right direction for you. Because second house also brings in themes of worthiness. And I feel for some of you, this is a time to get out there. You know, 5th house is about romance, and a lot of you could be dating, but some of you could have found that it's gotten to excessive levels, like dating and needing romantic attention in order to feel personally valuable, in order to feel good about yourself. Maybe trying to outsource your value around other people showing you romantic interest. And that may be something that you're observing is not sustainable. You know, Saturn really draws into awareness what is sustainable. And for some of you, this need to feel personally validated by romantic attention is not sustainable. It's not the pathway forward for you. And maybe some of you are gaining awareness of that. Some of you could be feeling blocked within your love life. You could be feeling like you don't have a crush. You're looking out at the romantic options and you're like, what is going on? Like, this is not what I want. This is not what I value for my future. And with the energy of Saturn, sometimes this is holding out for the real thing, is the energy of Saturn. Like, you might find in August and December 2024, you're like, listen, I've swiped, I've looked around, I'm good for now. I'm going to focus on getting my bag. And that's that. That could be the vibe. If you are in a serious relationship, you might find that the lighter, more banter energy of your relationship feels evaporated at the time being. Okay, maybe you're having financial discussions. Maybe you don't have the financial resources to go out and to have fun and to have all these experiences. Maybe you guys aren't feeling as flirty with one another. This too shall pass. That's important to bear in mind with this energy. And just trust that life will feel more fun again. For some of you, you're not seeing the value in your own creative ideas. And that's where this tension is coming alive. And again, Saturn doesn't ask us to surrender. It doesn't ask us to give up. It just asks us to make adjustments and to consistently show up for ourselves and to show up for your own value, for your own worthiness, even if you're not feeling it right now. Part of Saturn energy can be kind of like faking it until you feel it, or like muscling through. It's those moments around feeling inadequate, whether it's feeling that your creativity is inadequate, whether it's feeling that your own self is inadequate. Maybe for some of you, this is coming up around your work. You're feeling underpaid, right? And with the energy of Saturn, you might even feel overworked and underpaid. And it might be making you feel less sure of yourself. You might be feeling less confident in regards to how it is that you express yourself. Understand that this too shall pass. Understand that the number within your bank account, what other people deem you as worth, is not a true reflection of the value that you have. And perhaps for some of you, you're being asked to work the muscle of knowing your worth, of knowing your value. If you are a Pisces ascendant and or you have Jupiter in 14, 17 degrees Gemini in your 4th house, Saturn in 14, 17 degrees Pisces in your 1st house, this message is for you. And so I want to say you have Saturn in the 1st house, and so you are being asked to look out at the world through a very Saturnian lens. And especially if you are a Pisces rising, I use traditional rulers, so I would consider you ruled by Jupiter, you may be feeling a little disheartened. You know, you typically navigate life in this very magical, dreamy, intuitive way, and you could be feeling blocked from your own intuition. You could be feeling like life is so freaking hard right now. You're having to work really hard at something. You're having to be a boss when you don't feel like a boss. You're having to exert boundaries. That's hell for a Pisces rising. You're having to make decisions for your future. Like you are being asked to really rise up and show up for your life, even though everything within you likely wants to escape and run from the responsibilities or the pressures of life. They're here. They are arrived. And the energy of having, for some of you, your ruler, but not all, but having Jupiter in the 4th house is that a lot of you are wanting to make these decisions, these Saturnian decisions, where you're investing your time, where it is that you're enforcing your boundaries, the boss, the leader that you are standing up to be. You are making those decisions from what you feel and what you know will make you happy. You're making those decisions around the home life that you want to cultivate. I love the quote, "The root of all ambition is a happy home." That feels very much true to Jupiter in the 4th house, because there's just an energy around making the decisions necessary within the external world that'll be the most conducive for having a happy home. So for some of you, it could be working towards something in order to invest in property, in order to have your dream home. For some of you, it could be enforcing boundaries in order to experience more peace in your home. For some of you, it's enforcing boundaries in order to feel more peaceful with yourself, right? If a lot of people have been taking from you. Because that's been a major theme of Saturn in the 1st house for you, is that you are somebody who is an energetic sponge. You have a lot of energy that people can expunge. And you've been feeling very depleted because people have been siphoning it from you. Not even in a malicious way, but you're just somebody who is the ear to listen, and you're somebody who's compassionate, and you're somebody who takes in the problems of others, even if you don't have the space to be able to properly hold it. And this aspect brings into focus the need for boundaries and the need to understand our bandwidth. Because the energy of being a Pisces rising and this mutable showdown is that mutable signs tend to continue to expand and allow. Even if they're depleted, even if they don't have the time, it's like, okay, you can tell me what's going on, or, oh, I can take that on. And you can't play by that right now. Like, you're realizing that it sacrifices your own happiness when you are not being rigidly defensive of your own happiness and of your own needs and of your own boundaries. And so for some of you, you're having some tough conversations in these months around what's necessary for you to be happy, what's necessary around family, what's necessary around the home. And for some of you, you're having to be the bad guy a little bit. With the energy of Saturn in the 1st house, you're having to lay down the law, which is not the energy that you typically thrive in. But it's energy that you deserve, especially if it's depleting from the sacred reservoirs of who it is that you are, and the home that will genuinely refresh the energy stores. Some of you could be dealing with some conflict around how you want to live your life and how your family thinks that you should live your life. And with the energy of Saturn in 1st house, they may not like when you defend the way that you are living and the choices that you are making. They might have other ideologies. They might have other philosophies. They might have other religions. And with the energy of Saturn 1st house, you're having boundaries around, that's how you're living, this is how I'm living. For some of you, there can be tension around home, around roommates. For some of you, you're moving. When it comes to Jupiter energy, it's expansive, right? And you're growing, you're moving into a new place, but oftentimes moving comes with a lot of Saturn energy, right? Having to pack, for said move, having to find a place to live. Like, it takes a lot of hard work and effort in order to move in this new direction, but it is worth it if you are happy at home. Outside of the themes of home, I also see some of you are just making decisions based on what will make you happy. You're revoking access from people who have been draining you, who have been taking from you more than they've been giving to you. You are setting boundaries in order to have more time to do what legitimately charges you up. And you're no longer attempting to please everybody and everything. You're realizing that when you try to do that, you please no one. And you're genuinely choosing yourself, Pisces. That's what it feels like. And for some, these boundaries that you could be enforcing are around time. Like with Jupiter in the 4th house, you could be really contemplating, what's the family that I want to have? And what is the time that I have disposable in order to make that happen? Where are adjustments necessary? For some, there could even be clashes around how you want to raise your family, how your family raised you, and dealing with tension there. Ultimately, I'm just saying that you're making your own happiness, your own peace of mind a priority, Pisces. Even if that means having to be a little bit of the bad guy, having to enforce some boundaries, having to say the word no, having to be so fixated on the vision of what you are building that you're willing to have the uncomfortable conversations. You're willing to exert the work, have the consistency in order to get there. So my loves, I know that this particular aspect can feel a little disheartening. We may move into August and December 2024 feeling a little pessimistic. We may notice that the economy slows down a bit. We may feel like our intuition isn't speaking to us. But again, with this energy, please know that it will not always feel like it does right now. Please honor where Saturn is calling into question your Jupiterian growth, knowing that growth shows up, yes, in some Jupiterian ways around faith and optimism and expanding into the next chapter, but that growth must be supported. And Saturn, as much of a downer as it is, it's providing us the structure, it's providing us the foundation for growth that lasts, growth that sustains itself. So learn from this energy. Observe where Saturn is poking the holes in the grandiose Jupiterian plan. Observe where Saturn is calling into question the resources and the bandwidth necessary to support your Jupiterian growth. Observe where you are being guided to make adjustments, to enact boundaries in order to genuinely move forward. And ultimately, just remember, slow and steady progress is still progress. So I'd love to hear from you all. What's coming up with this Jupiter square Saturn energy? Have you already been feeling these themes? I do recommend getting acquainted with the Jupiter and Gemini All Signs Forecast, as well as the Saturn and Pisces All Signs Forecast. I'll have them linked below to get dialed in on what these energetics represent within the big picture, the story that they're playing out within your chart. I'd like to give a warm thank you to Magic Mind for sponsoring this Jupiter square Saturn All Signs Forecast. A reminder to check Magic Mind out by clicking the link within the drop down, as well as within the pinned comment. You can save 20% when you utilize my code COMET at checkout. And until we meet again, drink lots of water and stay cosmic.